Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Left of the box. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to this Sunday evening / afternoon, depending. I suppose if you are on the West Coast, it is afternoon still. Welcome. There's been a lot of news lately, huh? It's like every week. It's every week, isn't it? Just like every week is like 10 years worth of news. But I'm trying to cut back on it because I don't like doing 5-hour long live streams, especially when I have so many other projects on the go. Things like painting, because I'm hoping, I don't know yet, if I'll have a table at the Pride Festival, the vending market. Fingers crossed I get a table. But I can't wait for approval before I start painting. Because if I wait for approval and then they're like, okay, you're in, there's no way I'd get all the painting done in time. So I have to do that now. And I've been working on that TYT essay because the sooner I get that done, the more I can focus on things like painting and writing and stuff like that. So I've been working away on that. Come across some good clips recently to put in it, and I really need Jank and Anna to go on vacation for a couple months, at least until I'm done the essay, so that it doesn't keep on getting longer. Anyway, so far in the SandBox, we have Morbius, Jet, Diamond Weight Loss, John Litham, Reference Frame, Hermeteorologist, Big Jerry. Welcome, 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 everyone. Let's see if there's anyone that... Real John Litham saying just got done talking with some conservatives, so this will be a relaxing palate cleanse, hopefully. It would be a palate cleanse, but it's like a palate cleanse with acid. Thank you, Hermeteorologist, for letting me know that audio and video is a-okay. I appreciate that. Oh... Yeah, talking about sickness and all. I went to the doctors. I don't have a lung infection. Just, I guess, cold or respiratory cold virus-induced asthma. So I have a case of asthma, so it's probably not going to last, but I am on an inhaler right now until it gets cleared up. But I can take deeper breaths now. I'm still waking up sometimes in the middle of the night, just coughing my lungs out, but yeah. So luckily it doesn't seem like there's any infection, but it does look like I temporarily have asthma. Again, not the first time it's happened. So hopefully I can get over that sooner than later, which means I will be going back to the gym starting tomorrow. Because that pulled muscle that I had in my chest is more or less healed. You know, it can still be a bit tender at times, but... And now that I know I don't have like an infection or something, I'm going to go back to the gym. And I do mask up while I'm at the gym, so there's that. Because I'm itching to get back. Because something you all don't know yet, but I've been keeping like a journal of going to the gym. So right after I'm done recording or streaming on Sundays, I turn the camera off and I make sure that I'm done live streaming. Like I really make sure, because I take this shirt off and I put on a tank top, the same tank top I'm wearing for all of them. And I just do like a quick 2-minute long video about, you know, my progress, what I do, and I do a flex so that at the end of it, I can see, you know, if there's like improvement type thing. I can see the muscles grow. And so it's frustrating right now because most of the weeks it's like, yeah, so I didn't go to the gym this week. And I think I'm equal weeks going to the gym as being off of the gym at this point. So I want to change that. So lots more weeks at the gym than off. But the reason why I haven't gone to the gym is all very concrete, like physical issues. Uh, there hasn't been a week or a day that I hadn't gone to the gym because I'm like, I don't feel like it. So it's all because I've been sick or pulled a muscle or something physical preventing me from going. So fingers crossed that I can start going back, start improving things, because especially with all the work projects I have on the go, I need to get like more of a schedule going. But I can show you the paintings that I've done recently over the past week. I've got a bunch finished that I think you'll like. So last time you saw, I had done like last time you all saw this one. So that's the trans flag with a pansexual heart. And then I showed the bisexual trans flag, and it was blotchy, so I did end up painting it in more, filling it in. So this is the bisexual trans flag. And I like adding the little splattering around it to give it a little bit more character. And then I did the gay man and lesbian trans flags. So here we go. Oops. So the green one, this one, it's for gay men, and then this one is for lesbians. So if you're a trans man that is attracted to men, you're a gay man, so then that's what this flag would be for. And if you're a trans woman attracted to women, that makes you a lesbian. So then that's what this one is for. So I got those done. But one that I probably have to do a lot more of, fingers crossed, they're actually going to sell, is the Canada Pride flag. There is actually like a Canada Pride flag. And I think they turned out really nice. There you go. See? So I have 4 of them that are like this, that are plain, if you want to call them plain. But then I did 2. So I've done 8 Canada Pride flags so far. So I did 2 in metallic paint. So I still need to add a gloss over it to make it a little bit more shiny and give it like a little bit more of a metallic look. But yeah, that's metallic paints on top of it so that it looks, like a metal. And my favorite, but also the messiest, is the glitter pride flag. So it's all glitter. So I still need to add a layer of gloss over top of this one as well to seal in the glitter so it's not shedding sparkles everywhere. Now they're 5x7 paintings, and I know ideally I'd like to sell them for 40. That's not going to happen. So I think I'll be selling them for $30. And let me know if you think that's a reasonable price for these hand-painted Canada Pride flags. The other Pride flags, like these ones that are a little bit more basic, I'm only charging like $25 for. But the Canada Pride flag, because it is a pain in the ass painting that maple leaf. The Canada Pride flag and the inclusive Pride flags that I'm doing, I want to charge a little bit more on that because the paint companies don't have a package of Pride paint. So most of these colors that you see here, I had to mix to adjust them slightly so that they look more like the actual Pride flag colors. And then there's also more colors, and especially with the maple leaf, it takes a lot more time to do. So, I do want to charge a little bit more for these ones, just given how much more work goes into them. But I have no idea how many to make. And again, this is all if I get into the festival, which I don't even know that will happen. So, because if I don't get into it, then I don't know what I'm going to do with all these pride flags sitting around here. I think I do want to do at least another batch of the Canada pride flags. So then that would be another 8 of them. So 4 plain to glitter to metallic. So I will probably do another group of that, but tomorrow I'll be working on the gay and lesbian flags, pride flags. So that would be pride flags with the colors that are in the heart as the background. And then I put the gay and lesbian symbol on top of the proper one type thing. Uh, so, yeah, let's see. Just going to check, see people in the sandbox. We have more people joining, which is super appreciated. The more interactions in the sandbox, the more likely the stream is going to get into recommends and stuff. So we have Luck Dragon. It looks like a heart to me. Am I colorblind or racist? Which one? Because there were 4 different ones with 4 different color hearts on them. Oh, it could be the bisexual one. This one here. It's hard to see the different colors on the camera, but it's like a dark violet here, and then like a dark purple, and then like a dark fuchsia is the colors of the bisexual flag. So it can be a little bit difficult to see on camera. But in bright sunlight, easy to see. Let's see. And Luck Dragon saying you should paint a American flag that blends into a rainbow flag with every stripe. Not for this crowd, I don't think. Trying to sell American flags in Canada right now is a good bet. And especially the amount of time and energy I would have to put into that. I'll do commission if somebody wants one and is willing to pay, but that would actually be a lot more money because it's a lot more complex flag with the stars and everything. But I'm more than happy to do commission paintings of flags for people with like a different flag background and a symbol on top, all that sort of stuff. And hello, Bad Lefty. Welcome to the sandbox. Let's see what people are saying. Luck Dragon, I was just kidding. I can see all the colors, and I'm saying that I live in the Bay Area, and I didn't even know there were this many different flags for the LGBTQ community. Yeah, I have to Google it, and there are dozens. So I'm just trying to focus on the more common ones. So you got the inclusive flag, the pansexual, non-binary, gay, lesbian, and Canada pride flags are the ones that I'm going to be focusing on the most. And even the lesbian and gay man one, I'm not going to do very many of those. Like I might just leave it at 2 or 4 each. But the Canada pride flags, I think I need to do a lot more of. Pansexual tends to be very popular. Although it's only popular with the infinity heart on it. If I put the pansexual symbol on it, most people don't know what it is because most people don't recognize the pansexual. Oh yeah, and the trans flag is also a popular one. So those are the flags that I'll be focusing on the most, and then let people know that I can do commissions. But yeah. Oh, hello, the Wild West. Welcome to the SandBox. So yeah, I did like adding a gloss to all my paintings before, but I think just time constraints and resources, I'm only going to be adding them to things like the metallic ones or the sparkle ones, so the sparkles don't shed. But all the other ones, I don't think I'll be adding the gloss to, just to cut back on some time and stuff, because until I can get my painting table set up proper, it's killing my back. It's killing my back doing all this painting because of the way that I'm sitting. There is an ally flag, Luck Dragon. So that's asking, do you have a flag for heterosexuals that's 100% support for the LGBT community? Yeah, there's an ally flag as well. I probably won't be painting that one though. It's, again, a little bit more complex. And I don't think there's going to be massive demand for that. Because it's a balance of trying to... Hello, calibrating. Welcome to the SandBox. It's trying to do the balance of like, where do I put my energy and resources in? Because these are just the flags. I also want to do larger paintings that would cost more. Like the Pride Kitty type thing. You know, just fun, colorful paintings. And so I need to have a cutoff at some point, and then pricing can get complicated depending on all the different things that I do and whatnot. But I definitely think I need more Canada Pride flags if I'm going to be selling them kind of like in bulk. And then I'm also doing the Pride tulips. So that's a tulip done in the color of a specific Pride flag. So I have like a ton of painting I need to get done before the Pride Festival. And hopefully, like I said, I get a booth there. Hello, Marty. Oh, but yeah, I have news to cover today. And do you know what I'm not covering today, like at all? The shooting at the correspondence dinner. I don't give a fuck about that. David Dole from the Rational National, he just released a video on it, so people can go check that out if you want. It's informative. He actually read out the full manifesto of the shooter. And that was actually quite interesting to hear that. So you can go check out his video. And of course, there's all these conspiracy theories that are already flying and this and that and the other thing. And I don't care anymore. It's tragic. Somebody got shot, and even though it was the shooter, because, you know, I suspect it was somebody who just had a mental health break, especially based on the manifesto, someone who felt helpless and desperate and all that sort of stuff. And they didn't hurt, as far as I know, no one else was injured and stuff. So it's, and Marty saying faked end stage. Yeah, it could be like, I don't know. I don't care, because the FBI is so fucking incompetent right now. It could be all of the above. Like, it's just, I don't trust what's coming out of the White House. It's not going to have an impact on policy or anything. It's, yeah. So I'm not going to be covering that at all, because, like, to me, the journalist that was killed in Lebanon, that was targeted, far more important. Like, to me, that is far more important to cover. Doug Ford passing the law to get rid of the Freedom of Information stuff. Far more important than covering the shooting at the White House. Like, there's a lot of more concrete news out there that should be covered, but a lot of people are just going to be covering Donald Trump because, you know, clicks and all that sort of stuff. But especially from a Canadian perspective, I really don't give a fuck. I don't. Oh. Look, Dragon, great. Let's forget about the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Let's talk about Epstein. Yeah, I haven't really been talking about that much either. The Wild West, I'm crashing out about my taxes. Yes. I did not disappear your comment, the Wild West, and I don't think anyone else did. YouTube is very finicky at times, but why don't we actually get into the news? We could always chit chat a bit at the end, but like I said, I don't want to be spending 5 hours doing these live streams. So I'm trying to shrink the length of the dockets that I do and shrink the topics I do. It would be easier on me to keep shrinking them if I was actually properly clipping the live streams, because I don't want to say to people all the time, like, I'm not going to cover this particular story again because I covered it in a live stream way back when, and then expect somebody to go back and watch the entire live stream. So if I've been clipping segments and stuff, and you could easily find it in the videos, that would be one thing. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting back to clipping my videos so that people can see more of the topics that I'm covering on a regular basis, and then it's easier for people to follow the updates and stuff. So, Luck Dragon saying the police officer that was shot in bulletproof vest was by another officer, not the suspect. Oh, yeah. Anyway, let's get into some of the news, and as per my normal, I'm starting with some international news. This story doesn't even have like a Canadian angle I'm attacking it with, but we gotta shed sunlight on this story because my God, what Israel is doing with complete impunity, it's a stain on democracy. Like there's no such thing as democracy as long as this is allowed to go on. And how complicit Canada is in it, how complicit the West in general is in it. You know, the way that the media and politicians will spin it and try to make Israel look like the victim. It's horrifying. And this story in particular is horrifying. What this woman went through. Hello, Rusty. Yeah, it's just absolutely horrifying what they all went through. Oh, right. I need to put this in studio mode to make sure that the right page will come up and you're not going to get Inception. Where is it? Me share news. Oh, no, the right page is up there. Okay, transition to that and get rid of studio mode. Oh, do I have? Maybe? There we go. Okay. So, a journalist, another journalist, was targeted in Lebanon this time. So almost all of the journalists in Gaza have been wiped out because they were targeted, their families were targeted. Journalists in Iran were targeted both by Israel and the Iranian government. But the extent to what Israel is doing, targeting journalists, like just blatantly targeting them, like this story in particular is, again, it's just so horrific that she survived the first bombs, went into a house, they bombed the house, and she survived in the rubble for hours, was calling her friends and family while Israel was preventing ambulances from getting to her and everything, and she eventually died. And it's like, that's just murder. and nothing seems to happen to Israel for doing these blatant acts of murders and executions and assassinations. But then you get people all up in the comments saying, oh, well, they were working for Hamas or Hezbollah, so therefore it's okay to... No, it's not okay to target them. They're journalists. It doesn't matter if you don't like who you think they are working for. It's a war crime to target journalists. But war crimes are basically meaningless at this point with the amount that Israel has been able to get away with. Yeah, bad lefty. It was a triple tap. It is absolutely disgusting. So the serfs had, quote, tweeted this out saying Israel has just killed more journalists than any other nation in history. More than total number of journalists killed during the U.S. Civil War, World War I, II, the Korean War, and Vietnam War combined. And that's because it's not by accident. In some of these wars, you might be able to say, okay, maybe the journalists weren't targeted and they were just collateral damage. But Israel is specifically targeting journalists, and that is a war crime. Hello, True Democratic North with the $2 super chat. Super appreciate it. Oh, I'll have to take a picture of that. I need a better way of doing this, really. Because I have to do this. And you'll see the screen go dark momentarily, I think. I don't know. As I do this. And you hear the little doo-doo. But you shouldn't see this because of the way that I have it set up. And then I do this. There we go. And so then when we get back to the main screen, I will show it off. After I'm done with this docket. How about that? Okay. So Al Jazeera had posted this saying Al Jazeera's Heidi Pett says journalist Amal Khalil, fuck, I don't know how to say names, received threats from Israel WhatsApp number during the last war, warning her to stop reporting or leave Lebanon if she wanted her head to remain on her shoulders before being killed today in an Israeli attack. So first, Israel was threatening journalists and then just off and murdered her.
The two journalists had gone to the site of an earlier Israeli strike which targeted a car in the town of Atiri, leaving 2 people dead. When they arrived at the scene to do their jobs, to report on incidents here in southern Lebanon, they were targeted by subsequent Israeli airstrikes. The Lebanese Ministry of Health has described them as being pursued by Israeli strikes as they moved from first to shelter in one house and then another. The 2 were pinned down at the location for well over an hour, unable to move due to the continued strikes or the threat of them, and rescue workers unable to reach them because the road had also been hit. It was impassable. Now, once the Lebanese crossed...
Also, preventing responders from getting to the scene of bombings to help survivors. War crime. It's just... It's almost like that has no meaning anymore to label anything a war crime when no one is held accountable for doing said war crimes.
Red Cross was able to get to the location. They were able to retrieve the bodies of the 2 original victims, and they were able to get Zainab into an ambulance. She was severely injured at that point. But they were then hit by a stun grenade fired by the Israeli military, who also shot bullets at the ambulance. So they left in a hurry. At that point, Amal was still missing. They could not find her body, but they had to leave the location. During the intervening period, Zainab was treated in hospital. She's now in a serious but stable condition. And it was several hours before teams from the Lebanese Red Cross, from Civil Defense and the Lebanese Army were able to safely return to the location. They worked for several hours into the night searching for the body of Amal, which was then found. Amal is a well-known and respected journalist here in Lebanon. She had actually received direct threats during the last war from an Israeli phone number on...
This is why I get pissed off with certain people, like let's say Jank from TYT, when he starts talking about Tucker Carlson and how Tucker Carlson has done more, or Jank has talked about how he's put himself in harm's way to talk to right-wingers and stuff of that sort. These journalists are fucking heroes. Like, they are the bravest among us. She had received threats, and she still did her job because of principles, because she knew this information needed to get out there. To do that, and especially at this point when you know journalists are targeted, the amount of bravery you have to do this is just, it's something that almost seems like fiction. Because how can that level of selflessness, trying to expose what's happening, how can that be real? When especially we see on social media the dark side of everyone so often. and how mean people are, how cruel people are. It almost feels like people like Amel aren't real anymore. Like, I can't imagine it. Doing this job, knowing journalists are targeted, and still going out there and then dying this horrific death. Oh.
WhatsApp asking her to cease her reporting, in fact, telling her that she should leave Lebanon if she wanted her head to remain on her shoulders. The Israeli military, in a statement, denied reports that it had been preventing rescue teams from reaching the scene, and additionally said that they do not target journalists. But it was less than a month ago that 3 journalists here in southern Lebanon were killed in a double-tap attack. Their vehicle was hit, it was hit again, and then rescue workers who went to the scene were subsequently targeted. And in a statement after that attack, they attempted to smear one of those journalists by posting a photo which they later admitted was photoshopped, alleging that he was a member of Hezbollah's elite special forces. Now, this has been systematic targeting of journalists and medics here in southern Lebanon. The Information Minister, Paul Morkus, has called this latest attack a flagrant violation of international humanitarian law.
And you know how Canada, Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau always say, oh, Israel has a right to defend itself, but must abide by humanitarian international law. So where's the consequences? Because they obviously have not been. Like, just flat out, they haven't been. They've been violating international humanitarian law every single fucking day. They're committing a genocide. So Ryan Grimm was also talking about this, saying this premeditated attack on journalists carried out over multiple hours, with medics and huge part of the public begging Israel to stop, should really be enough to lock Netanyahu for life. Lock up Netanyahu for life. This is just blatant murder. And he was quote tweeting Nada here, and she says, "We spoke to reporter." Again, I do not know how to say these names. I'm terribly sorry. Who survived a triple tap attack that killed her colleague Amel. She described how an Israeli strike first hit the car ahead of them, killing 2 civilians, before a second strike targeted their own vehicle, severely injuring Amel. The survivor said she helped her into an empty house where they lay wounded and terrified, waiting for help. The third strike then hit the building where they were hiding, collapsing it on top of them. Amel was gone, the survivor said, and I was left alone. Throughout this ordeal, the journalists made repeated calls for help, but Israel prevented Lebanese army and the Lebanese Red Cross from reaching them, informed sources told us. And she's also talking about this article here from The National. I'm burning. Injured Lebanese journalist recounts harrowing Israeli attack that killed her colleague. This has to end. Like, this has to end. A journalist who survived a triple tap attack said waited for hours. Yeah, so cover that. I'm not going to read all this article. It's again, it's horrifying what happened. But I'll toss this into the SandBox so that if you want to read up more on it, you can. You have access to it. So I can't accept that Amel is gone, she said, her voice cracking. I don't know how I will live with this pain. The only thing I can say is thank God. But truly, I wish I had gone with them. It would be easier than living with this pain. And they were covering a funeral, I believe, for other people who have been killed. Like, it's just beyond barbaric. I haven't actually watched this video here, and I don't think I can. Because covering the news all the time, being inundated with this, it takes a toll. Yeah, I'm trying to maintain what little sanity I have. It's just, yeah, it's heartbreaking. Hello, So Life. So here we have consequences from the Canadian government for when Israel killed Canadians. These are tough consequences, eh? From CBC News, Ottawa has asked Israel to investigate Canada's killing in Lebanon. Canadians' killing in Lebanon. We're asking the murderers to look into the murder they did. That's the big consequence that's happening. Not sanctions, not calling them out, not saying genocide, not, pulling our ambassadors or anything of that sort. Not stopping weapon sales. None of that. But a stern saying you should investigate the crime you did. IDF has not claimed responsibility for the death of Mohammed Hassan Haider. So Canadian officials summoned Israeli ambassador Ido Moed last week to request an investigation into the killing of Mohammed Hassan, a Canadian citizen in southern Lebanon, Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand said Tuesday. We did speak with the Israeli ambassador and we requested that Israel undertake a full and transparent investigation. Anand told CBC News on her way into a weekly cabinet meeting. A spokesperson for Anand's office, Maya, also said to CBC News that Canada's ambassador to Israel, Leslie, met with Israel's Minister of Foreign Affairs as well. Maya said the ministry has agreed to conduct a probe. We were very adamant that this investigation is extremely important, Anand said. Who is this? I can't read names. Anyway, the family of the person who was murdered said in an emotional news conference in Windsor, Ontario last week that he was killed in a drone attack on April 10th in southern Lebanon community of this area while trying to assist someone who was injured right outside his home. CBC News has reached out to the embassy about his death and the meeting with the Canadian officials, but has received no response. Israel has not claimed responsibility for the incident. This is the third summons in less than a year. We're cracking down on them here in Canada. You keep on murdering Canadians and we'll keep summoning you. You'll have to fit us into your schedule and take time and consequences, Like Anita Anand can just fuck right off. Her, Mark Carney, the whole Canadian complicity in this. So the article just goes into some of the other summonings that have happened with nothing as a result. No change in anything as a result. And it's also not the first time the Canadian government has asked Israel to probe its military actions. So it's not the first time we have asked the murderer to look into the murder they murdered. It's at the point now where we're asking a serial killer to be like, could you investigate yourself? We're not even saying stop the killing, but could you just investigate yourself? Earlier that year, then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also said he wanted some very clear answers on how a Canadian aid worker, Jacob, was killed during a strike in Gaza. Yeah. So then we have this article here from The Grind, and that's an independent magazine in Toronto. Cops keep showing up to arts events about Palestine. What can organizers do? And this is a fairly long, detailed article, which they tend to do. So we're just going to skim through it, and I'll put the link into the SandBox. Toronto police showed up at comedy fundraiser and at a film screening on the same night in April. Organizers describe how this fits into a broader pattern and what can be done to protect community members. So it was just after 10 p.m. on Saturday, April 4th, when two Toronto cops walked into the lobby of a comedy bar on Bloor Street, moments before the Stand Up for Gaza comedy show was set to begin. The monthly event raises funds for the Gaza Soup Kitchen. There was a stand up for what was the Friends of Israel or something like that, Friends of the IDF, which a former person who used to show up on the Majority Report, who now doesn't show up on the Majority Report for very obvious reasons, she was participating in it, where she was raising funds to help support IDF soldiers and the families of them. The police didn't go to that one. Well, they did, but that was to yell at the protesters who were there. But here we have, oh no, you're doing a fundraiser for a soup kitchen. We need to send in the cops. So witnesses say the officer asked questions about the gathering, apparently under the impression that the comedy show was an organized march. Comedian and host of the event, Isabel, spoke to the two officers, insisting there were no plans to march through the rain late at night. Eventually, the cops left. And so that sort of thing has never happened in my experience, Isabel tells The Grind, describing the officer's actions as intimidating and infringing on my personal space. After they left, I splashed some water on my face in the bathroom. Another comedian in the show gave me a hug and a glass of water, and I went on stage to open the show. So this happened before she was, oh my God. How do you go and do a stand-up comedy bit after that? So I mentioned that the police had been called on the show and the crowd loudly booed. So the same evening, a few hours earlier, the police disrupted a film screening of Palestine 36, the acclaimed historical epic, at the TIFF Lightbox on King Street. Midway through the film, which was presented by the Toronto Palestine Film Festival, two officers entered the sold-out theater and began to observe the audience. Not intimidating at all. So somebody there saying, I have never seen police enter a theater, who had been a programmer with TPFF for more than 19 years, tells The Grind. It was incredibly disturbing because everyone was so immersed in the film, they were completely disarmed and not aware of their surroundings when the police showed up. The organizer says she spoke to TIFF front of house staff, who told her that they could not recall another incident in which police entered a theater midway through a film. So it is a growing trend of police showing up at events related to Palestine is not a new one. In January 2024, police showed up at a venue for Palestine fundraiser one day before the event, inquiring about security and suggesting metal detectors to the Black Run space. Organizers announced the event had been canceled and was later held at a venue at a different location. So this trend also takes place amid a backdrop of heightened rhetoric surrounding anti-Semitism and hate crimes. Just where's the thing that I wanted to get to? Later that month, Toronto police announced a new counterterrorism unit in response to Spada shootings targeting synagogues in Toronto in the U.S., which mostly caused property damage. By April, the police had increased patrols around Jewish places of worship, and community gathering spaces. Where there is something in here that I wanted to read. I'm going to do the Control F. I'm doing the Control F. Nope, that's not what I want. Nope, that's not what I want. Somewhere in this article, it says that police are no longer making a distinction between fundraisers and marches or other events. Please tell me I'm not like looking right at it and not seeing it. Oh, here we go. So what we're seeing now, who is this person? An event organizer says, is that police are not even distinguishing between protests, academic events, or cultural events. Anytime there are Palestinians speaking about Palestine, they are viewed as potentially anti-Semitic or promoting violence. So how organizers can prepare for police presence. Maya is a longtime climate and social justice organizer who currently works for a union. In 2020, at the height of protests against police brutality, she helped form Bloordale Community Response, a group dedicated to imagining viable alternatives to policing in Toronto West End. And so then, let's see. Part of the group's effort include training local businesses, restaurants, and bars in how to intervene and de-escalate conflict without involving the police and create supportive networks of bartenders. The escalation of policing around Palestine, Maya tells The Grind, is startling and in many ways replicates the escalation that occurred at the height of the movement for Black Lives. Countering police escalation, Maya argues, will not be achieved by lodging complaints or trying to HR our way through police escalation. Efforts to reform policing in Toronto have not made people safer, she says, citing the introduction of body cameras and special investigations unit. Instead, Maya believes that organizers must understand how policing works and develop safeguards in response. What's the plan if the cops arrive outside, she says? Are the hosts and venue on the same page? And what's the plan to communicate to people in the room if this happens? Maya says organizers must also be clear-eyed about the risk of putting on public events related to Palestine. To stand in our values in this political moment, to say no to genocide and the war machine, that will always carry some type of inherent risk, she says. We need to be able to prepare ourselves for that and steel ourselves and be as informed as possible about our right to assemble and protest. So again, I will toss this into the SandBox so that you can finish reading this article if you like. Speaking of police, this is from Toronto Police. Task Force Guardian continues to deploy highly trained officers at various locations across the city. Our highly trained officers are out there to keep you safe and are always happy to answer your questions.
So we'll go up in twos, just do a foot patrol around Rogers Center. You guys be with me.
We don't need this American-style bullshit in Canada. We don't need people geared up like this showing up to a film screening, a comedy show.
Task Force Guardian is a new initiative by the Toronto Police Service. The purpose of this initiative is to have officers, uniformed patrol officers, carrying long guns, doing high.
And as a Canadian, it is actually quite disturbing to see anyone carrying long guns because we're so not used to it up here. Because I went to the Canada Day celebration in Ottawa for a big year. And the police there had long guns. And it is so weird seeing that because we're so not used to seeing people just carry this out in the open. And it's a little disconcerting. And the idea that we're encouraging more police units to be doing this.
Patrols, and it's basically enhancing public safety in the.
How is this enhancing public safety? By making it feel like you're in a police state. How is that enhancing public safety?
Communities. The purpose of this is just a deterrent in case any kind of imminent threat is present.
Yeah, so that's just a whole bunch of American-style policing bullshit that we really do not need up here in Canada because our policing's already bad enough. But here's Canada, you know, always looking for ways to support Israel. So Niagara Falls was lit up in white and blue last night for Israel's 78th Independence Day. Yeah. Tell me again, how did Israel form 78 years ago? You really want to celebrate that? Like, come on. Just the fact that we can still have organizations that are so boldly supporting Israel while they're committing a genocide. Meanwhile, cops keep showing up to comedy shows and film screenings run by Palestinians or in support of Palestine. That is gross. Like, what would happen if we put the Palestinian flag colors on Niagara Falls? You think that would happen? No, no, no. When cities have allowed for Palestinian flags to be raised in solidarity or to commemorate something, suddenly laws are passed in those cities to make it so no other flag other than the Canadian flag can fly. Like this is just, it's gross. It's gross. But there was a flotilla heading back to Gaza, and apparently it was supposed to be the largest, but I have not seen any fucking news on it. So Niles here says share everything about the flotilla this entire week until April 26, when it is scheduled to arrive in Gaza. Greenpeace vessel joins global flotilla aiming to break Gaza blockade. Nothing going to stop them now. Well, today is the 26th. And so to prepare for this live stream, I Googled it to see if I could find any news articles on it. And the only news articles are old or talking about something about Greta Thunberg's partner being sexually inappropriate or something, like totally nothing to do with the actual flotilla. And just given the sources, I'm not even entirely sure that's accurate reporting, but nothing on the flotilla itself. So I hope everything is okay. I hope they're all okay. I hope it's still going on. But it's like a complete news blackout on it. Anyway, let's go back to the main shot and I can close these tabs. Because I was hoping to give you updates on the flotilla. Anyway. Get the next docket ready. Not that one. This one. Okay. So next will be some federal news. And so I have two dockets of provincial news stuff. One is like a bunch of different stories of provincial news. And then I have one docket specifically on the Freedom of Information Act being revoked. So go on and check the SandBox. Oh yeah, and I can do this now. Thank you so much, True Democratic North, for the $2 super chat. I really appreciate it. Glad I remembered ADHD. I might not have remembered doing that. And I just want to make sure that I'm not missing. Okay, got it. Get it, got it, good. Okay. Okay, I saw those. My back is still bugging me. Doing these paintings in the way that I'm set up right now, it's brutal on my back. Ugh. People talking about the strike on the reporter, the journalist. Reference frame gonna lurk while I barbecue in t-shirt outside. You know, I do love barbecue food. I have never actually barbecued food myself. And also, I don't have access to a barbecue, but it is something that I do very much enjoy barbecued food. But yeah, I've never actually done it. Well, I'm a very shitty cook to begin with, so I would just put it on barbecue till burn. But enjoy the barbecue. Bad lefty, war crimes on top of war crimes. Yep. Have I said hello yet, Soul Life? If not, hello. I might have. Soul Life. It's funny how YouTube knew their shit was so buggy that they had to program a safeguard to prevent mods from self-immolating. Okay. Bad Lefty, the police have investigated police and found not only are they innocent, they are also so handsome and gorgeous lovers. Mm-hmm. In fact, they're the victims. Yeah, it's funny whenever the police investigate themselves, they never find any wrongdoing. You know, I investigate my live streams and I've never done anything wrong. Yeah, there's a mess, and I asked my cats to investigate the mess that I know they created, and my cats are like, it wasn't us. Yeah, they're saying that they're not the ones shitting in the litter box, which would be disturbing if that was actually the case. Because then it's like, okay, so where's that coming from? Hello, Bobby. That's just a really weird train of thought. I don't know. I'm in a mood. Hello, Shemagly. For a minute, I was going to call you the wrong name again. It is Shemagly, right? I think I kept on calling you Shemagly, but it's Shemagly. Oh, have a good night, Luck Dragon. Let's see. Soul Life experimenting with what is acceptable in there. Mm-hmm. The Wild West Task Force Guardian. What the fuck? It's like a military takeover. Yeah, it's very uncomfortable seeing that. Like, again, like in Canada, we're just so not used to seeing people walking around with guns. It doesn't make me feel safer seeing police with guns when I've seen footage, tons and tons of footage of police assaulting people. It doesn't make me feel safer when those people who have apparently legal impunity to assault others now have guns pointing in their faces like that. It doesn't, no. No, I see them and I know the footage. I've seen the footage of them beating people at homeless encampments, at peaceful protests, horses, having their horses trample over them. I don't want those people walking around with guns. Bad Lefty, Nakba Day, yeah. It's not really celebrating the independence of Israel. It's celebrating Nakba, which is gross. So like there's a lot the news isn't saying, yeah. Well, normally with something like the flotilla or when it comes to what's happening in Gaza and stuff like that, Al Jazeera usually has something, but there are no actual news articles when I Googled it anyway. So it could, Google could just be suppressing it. So it's like I might have to go to like the actual news sites of Al Jazeera and then do a search on it to see if they have articles on it. But quite often when you Google it, you find it, but there's nothing. The Wild West, there's some grills at public parks. Yeah, I know, but that's like work. Hello, Atticus Among Us. Welcome to the SandBox. Reference frame. I am enjoying the barbecue. The steak looks thick and juicy. Just gotta wait a little for the veggies and potatoes to all be done. Well, okay, so technically the only thing I've cooked over a barbecue are marshmallows, but I'm the type of person that I do like my meat overdone, so. Ah, it is Shenanigans, okay. Atticus Among Us, everyone wants to be a cat until you have to do cat stuff. Yeah, I don't think I would like to lick myself in order to get clean. That's no. Mm-mm. So life, those fancy, expensive, self-cleaning litter bins scare the crap out of cats and they won't even use it. That would not surprise me in the least. But not going to lie, I wouldn't even report that, but I can see why others might. Not sure what that's in reference to. Bad lefty. Anyway, let's just move along to the next docket. Talking about some federal news here in Canada. I'm going to start with people are so deluded by Mark Carney. Like, I'm talking about liberals. They have their head in a bucket of maple syrup. Like they are so maple washed on him that they're like, look at all these good things he's done, and then lists a whole bunch of horrible conservative things he's done. The liberals in this country are not capable of critical thinking. They're not. Like, you can't be a liberal. Like, if you believe in the policies that the liberals have claimed to have, you can't be a fan of Mark Carney. If, like, you need so much cognitive dissonance right now in order to be a fan of Mark Carney and a liberal. Because he is anything but a liberal. No, I wouldn't say that, because he's definitely not progressive. Okay, so he's definitely, he's anything but a liberal and to the left of that. So we'll change this to the proper page. No, this one. There we go. So Christo Avalez is just saying, oh, you hate Mark Carney? Here's a list of mostly bad things he's done. Also, a reminder to people who are in the SandBox, if I get rated, please take my left of the box so that it glows, so I know, because I don't get notified anymore, really. Just the little black bar at the bottom of the chat, and everything is black, so I can't really notice them. And I like to give credit to people when they rate me. Anyway, so Yannick here. And so there's lots of those memes going around of people saying, oh, fuck, what was this meme? You hate Mark Carney because he's a liberal, but we hate Mark Carney because he's a conservative. We're not the same thing, or something like that. But yeah, so it says you hate Mark Carney because he's a liberal. Fine. It's like, no, we hate Mark Carney because he's a conservative. And here's the things that he's bragging about Mark Carney doing. But I keep hearing he's done nothing from people who can't name a single policy. So here's the receipts from his first 12 months. No, he has done a lot of stuff, just a lot of conservative stuff. So he killed the consumer carbon tax, gone on day one, which that was not good. No. Scrapped the EV mandate, replaced it with $5,000 rebate in Troy. That's not an EV mandate. Well, that was good. He reversed the capital gains tax hike. That's a very that was something Pierre Poilievre was running on, huh? That wasn't good either. Passed the One Canada Economy Act, C5, to tear down interprovincial trade barriers. C5? That bill was bad. it allows them to just, ignore laws and do whatever they want. And yeah. Huh. Cut 40,000 federal jobs with a plan to actually shrink government. That is a very conservative thing that you just said. And why are you acting like this is a good thing? That 40,000 people are out of work. Slashed immigration targets to match housing and infrastructure capacity. Okay, these are all conservative things and they're all shitty. They're all shitty. Hit NATO's 2% target with $82 billion in new defense spending. I think there's other things we could be using that money for. Launch Build Canada Homes and Major Projects Office fast-tracking 20 projects. And that's all going to corporations. That's helping that's not helping people. That's helping corporations. 26 international trips. China canola tariffs reduced. That I can say is good. And that's it. 97 billion in foreign investment secured. I'm a little set. I don't trust those numbers there that this person quoted, but yeah. Read it again. Carbon tax gone. EV mandate gone. Gains. No, this is all bad. It's all bad. You don't have to like him. You don't have to vote for him. Okay, yeah. I don't like him and I didn't vote for him. But saying he's done nothing after all of this list isn't analysis. It's selective memory. These aren't good things. And so some people just kind of responding to that. It's like, wrong. I loathe Mark Carney because he's even more right-wing than the cons. We hate him because he's a white colonizer. I don't like the Liberals because I'm not a right-wing conservative. Many of the things you think are good here, I think, are defunding the government, denying climate change, and giving corporations and the rich while suppressing the wages of Canadians. So Lefty, the Canadian radical, Tory, does great work on Twitter. And comes also with receipts a lot of the time. So she is a trusted source on Twitter, which I try to stick to, kind of debunking what this person said. So defund the government, take money from the disabled and poor, deny climate change, trickle down economics, wage suppression, pandering to racists, grow the deficit, cave to Trump, ineffective and not affordable. Yeah. Speaking of more great things he's done, Canada rolling back support for Indigenous rights, Amnesty International says. When Amnesty International starts saying, you suck, maybe that's a moment for some self-reflection. Maybe that's a moment to start looking at our policy and being like, maybe we're the baddies. Because they're pointing out it's not even... Like, the government has been bad on Indigenous rights in Canada for a while, but now they're saying they're actually being rolled back. And that's what Amnesty International is trying to warn about. That it's not just that we're bad on it, it's getting worse. So instead of improvement, there's decline.
Amnesty International is expressing concern that Canada is backsliding on Indigenous rights. The CBC's Brett Forrester joins us now live with more on this story. So Brett, tell us more about what Amnesty is saying.
Amnesty International is concerned that Canada is going in the wrong direction on this issue. Behind the concerns are things like the Carney government's Bill C-5, the Building Canada Act, to fast-track approvals for projects deemed to be of national importance. Here is what Amnesty Canada Secretary General Keti Nivyabandi told me about that in an interview in Ottawa.
You see, there was an article on this that I was going to read, but there was no way I was going to be able to say her name like he did.
Particularly when it relates to Indigenous rights, that we are stepping back. We're rolling back on Indigenous rights, particularly with the expansion and the, of programs of major infrastructure projects.
So, Arthi, the organization issued its global annual report yesterday, singling out the Carney government's Bill C-5 and similar laws passed at the provincial.
You know, the thing the other guy was bragging about, something that Carney has done? Yeah.
Level. The report says these laws threatened Indigenous people's right to self-determination while Canada expanded extraction projects on their land without their consent. So some strong language there. More generally, Nivyabandi said she's concerned that human rights could take a back seat for the federal Liberals as they pursue other priorities, including boosting defense spending and growing the economy.
So now, how do the conclusions from Amnesty's report align with what Indigenous leaders have been saying?
These findings echo what Indigenous leaders have been saying for months, and it comes at a time when First Nations leaders continue to raise these concerns. The Assembly of First Nations said yesterday that its national chief will be at the United Nations this week. She intends to raise some of these human rights issues, specifically the situation in BC. There's a lot of controversy facing the provincial government there about whether it will continue implementing the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Last summer, when the Carney government introduced this bill federally, there was vigorous criticism, a lot of pushback. There were promises of resistance. So the Liberals promised that they would respect Indigenous rights when...
Oh, the Liberals promised, did they? Oh, for a moment there I was worried, but they promised, that they would respect Indigenous rights. Oh, you got me worried there for a moment. Oh, fuck.
Implementing this project. So clearly a lot of people, Amnesty, the Assembly of First Nations, will be watching how the Liberals balance these issues now that they have a majority in the House of Commons. I did contact the federal government for a response to these findings. I haven't heard back yet. It is worth noting that these aren't new concerns from Amnesty International. The organization has taken some strong positions on Indigenous rights in Canada in the past, whether that is the lack of access to clean water in some First Nations communities or the overrepresentation.
Some? A lot. Try a lot. Dozens.
Of Indigenous people in federal prisons. What is new is this idea that...
That's an important point that most people don't know, so I'm just going back up because I kind of spoke over it there.
Communities or the overrepresentation of Indigenous people in federal prisons.
To put that in context, 30% of men in federal prisons are Indigenous. 40% of women are Indigenous, and over half the children in foster care are Indigenous. They make up only 8% of the population in Canada. That's quite the, yeah.
What is new is this idea that Canada is going backward, that Canada is going in the wrong direction, and I'm very curious to see how the government responds to that criticism, Arthi.
Thanks for this, Brett. That is the CBC's Brett Forrester reporting from Ottawa.
And here's some more Mark Carney stuff. So Bud Reno is just saying Mark Carney is firing 40K government workers. Again, something that our guy was saying, ooh, this is good, eh? He wants to replace them with AI. Carney does not support UBI. It's nowhere in the budget that goes until 2029. So Mark Carney even has a minister for AI. Got rid of the minister for disabilities and inclusion and all that sort of stuff. But made a minister for AI. And he's bragging about all the jobs that AI will be taking over and stuff like that. But what's going to happen to all the people who lose their jobs? Because we have a budget. They have a majority in the House now. So anything they want, they'll get. And so until at least 2029, there's no thought of anything like a UBI, plus the Liberals never do that anyway. So that just means there's going to be a lot more desperate people out there in need of jobs. So UBI Works had tweeted this out. Mark Carney makes the case for basic income social supports to help workers impacted by AI. So he makes the case for it without actually doing anything that would lead to it. So I don't need to read the quote because it'll be in here.
New jobs will be created, but old jobs will be lost. And the question is what...
And how many new jobs will be created? Will they be comparable to the amount of jobs that are lost? Will there be that many new jobs created, especially when you just slashed 40,000 federal workers?
happens to the people in those jobs? Are they ready for the new jobs? How do you get them ready for the new jobs? And look, the lesson of
education is not free in this country, so how are people supposed to get retrained for new positions? What if the people are over the age of 40? There's not too many companies that are willing to hire people that are older. What kind of rates will these new jobs pay? You know, how accessible are they? Are they in town? Do people have to move? There's a whole lot that goes into this. UBI, Universal Basic Income, or a Guaranteed Livable Wage, is the only way forward if you want to invest in companies using more AI, which I'm not a fan of. In theory, AI was good, but in practice, how it's being used, it is a shitstorm on top of a hurricane.
previous industrial revolutions, and we are entering two industrial revolutions at the same time, the sustainable revolution and the AI revolution. The lesson of previous industrial revolutions is what happens is that you go through a long period with huge change of jobs and industries, and that workers are slow to benefit from the benefits of those new industries. Now,
And with the wage gap, the disparity between the top 1% and everyone else widening all the time, income inequality rising all the time, a lot of people don't have the wiggle room. It's not like, oh, things are, uncomfortable for a little bit until they get retrained. No, they become destitute in the mean.
that doesn't have to be the case, and what happens is that eventually people get retrained, eventually new
Yep, a lot of people don't have the time to get retrained. Also, so many people out there that I've heard are applying for jobs. Nobody's fucking hiring. And I saw on their tweet thread on something. I tend to talk more about AI when I go on this space on Wednesdays. And it's how a lot of resumes are read by AI. So they get filtered by AI before any human might see it. And they get selected that way. And the AI programs self-select. So if an AI program rewrote your resume, that AI screening program is more likely to pick itself. Which I can't say I'm shocked on. But when you have like actual humans read the resumes, they'll be like, oh, these resumes are good. And they were the ones that were written by actual humans. But AI has this tendency to be narcissistic and say, look at this resume. It's so good. I like this one. We'll push this one through because it was made by the same AI program.
social safety net and welfare systems are put in place to support people, but it happens decades after the fact. The political process lags. I think we should benefit from that knowledge, that history, and
Get
do this
ahead
in
of it.
real time.
Yeah.
And it therefore has to be part and parcel of the growth strategy. So a huge element of this is necessarily going to have to be around the skills agenda, and the skills agenda in real time, and make these changes not threatening for people, but legitimately exciting for people.
A lot of the jobs that are being replaced by AI are jobs that average people have, like ordering things from Amazon, picking things from the warehouse, working in fast food restaurants. A lot of them are just now being automated. Like a lot of jobs that are being automated are jobs that just help you get into a field. They're what's the term? Introductory jobs or whatever. There's a term for, just getting into the market or whatever. Jobs that are the minimum wage jobs that a lot of people rely on. Those are the jobs that are getting replaced. Like the cashiers in stores are replaced with your own checkouts now, and all of that sort of stuff. So how many minimum wage jobs are being created that people can get retrained on to make up for the fact that tens of thousands of people, average people, minimum wage working people, are going to lose their jobs?
Because they have the opportunity to develop the skills that, are in the clean economy, are applying AI across a huge range of those economies, and they're growing their jobs from there. And that means, it means multiple levels of government.
Anyway, I'm done listening to him on that. So, on to Pierre Poilievre. And the Serf's quote tweeting a tweet of his saying, "Once you realize he's a servant to oil and gas lobby and doing everything in his power to pass the costs, it all makes sense. We won't change the industry for the destruction it caused. Oh, sorry. We won't charge the industry for the destruction it causes, and instead fleece the public and try to remove any societal benefit taxes bring." So, Mark Carney has already got rid of a whole bunch of taxes, so Pierre Poilievre has to escalate. He has to be more conservative. He has to be more strong on getting rid of taxes. So he's just like, let's just get rid of all the taxes on gas. For the rest of the year. Yeah, Mark Carney's not doing that yet. Let's do that because Mark Carney's already cut the taxes on gas for a little bit. But let's just zero tax on gas. To save you 25 cents a liter at the pumps, because that would not last at all before the corporations are like, so we just charge the same price and we get to pocket so much more money, because that's what happens when you cut taxes on gas. Not to mention the billions that would not be going into the federal coffers that would eventually go back to the people. This is such an asinine idea. Like, this is something high school students might be like, wow, we can solve, people's transportation issues. Like, if we cut gas prices, people would save so much money. But then they'll have to pay for other things out of pocket that they wouldn't have had to before because of all the things that are getting cut, and gas companies are just going to keep it high. But you see, as the source are pointing out, Pierre Poilievre is so much in the pocket of oil and gas companies that he knows this will only benefit them. This won't benefit the people. It will benefit the gas and oil corporations because they'll keep the prices the same. They just get to pocket more profit. A little bit more from Mark Carney. And the Serf's quote tweeting this, saying he jumped on board with the U.S.-Israeli imperialism against Iran a week ago. Who's he fooling with this? So Mark Carney says, many of our former strengths based on our close ties with America have become our weaknesses. Yes. Anyway, let's listen to his bullshit.
So here's the current situation. The world, as I said earlier, is more dangerous and divided.
The U.S. has fundamentally changed its approach to trade, raising its tariffs to levels last seen during the Great Depression. Many of our former strengths,
What's with the little tin soldier?
based on our close ties to America, have become our weaknesses, weaknesses that we must correct. Workers in our industries most affected by U.S. tariffs, in autos, in steel, in lumber, are under threat. Businesses are holding back investments, restrained by the pall of uncertainty that's hanging over all of us. The U.S. has changed, and we must respond. So here's the current situation.
Yeah, and so how do we respond? As somebody points out, new Mark Carney says Canada's close tie with the U.S. our weakness. Meanwhile, his government gave early support to the U.S.-Israeli war of aggression on Iran, gives millions to American arm companies, and doubles the value of military export contracts with the USA last year, is still considering plans to buy even more American F-35 jets. And then there was also, he got rid of the digital service tax, which benefited the Americans. He has done... He has bent over backwards to accommodate Trump, to be on board with Trump, to step in line with Trump when it comes to overseas conflicts and stuff. So how exactly are you separating yourself from the United States at this point? Anything? Because there's this from the Maple. This is new. These American weapons used in Iran are partially made in Canada. Yeah, in this case, aligning with America is one of our weaknesses. At least 6 companies in Canada are currently manufacturing, maintaining, or producing components for the same type of weaponry and military assets the U.S. has used in its war on Iran, an investigation by the Maple has found. 5 of the companies, Raytheon, Boeing, Standard, Aero, Northrop, and others, are subsidiaries or branches of American firms. One of the companies, MI Composite Technology, has its headquarters in Canada. These companies produce for the U.S. government components to Tomahawk missiles and MQ-9A Reaper drones. Landing gear for fighter jets, nose randoms for bomber, whatever, other bits and pieces. The total value of the contracts analyzed by the Maple that implicate Canadian facilities is 5.2 billion US or 7 billion Canadian. Most of the contracts stipulate that the majority of work must be completed in the United States, with 2.5% or less being completed in Canada. In individual cases, as little as 0.1%, and as much as 99% of its work is taking place in Canada. And then it also goes into the different companies that I was talking about that you can read up more on if you like. So I will toss the rest of this into the SandBox. But despite the capitulation that Mark Carney keeps on doing, despite the ass kissing that Doug Ford also does when it comes to the Americans, you know, he'll play tough, but then he'll go on American TV shows or news shows. He was on CNN again recently, I think. You know, talking about how Americans are our friends and all the contracts that we still do with them, despite the fact that we know that, you know, they're not a stable investment partner when it comes to anything, given how completely off whack they are with Donald Trump and everything of that sort. Despite all of that, Americans are still insulted that we don't like them anymore. It's not enough for them because regular Canadians, so despite what our government is doing, us regular Canadians are like, no to the USA. We don't go vacationing there anymore. We don't buy their products as much anymore. We don't want to have much to do with the United States anymore because all the bullshit that Donald Trump does, that Mark Carney keeps on ignoring, we don't ignore. So all the times that he keeps on saying how he'll invade Canada, the tariffs that he imposed on Canadian companies, which has hurt workers, you know, the average Canadian is more concerned about that than, you know, what our governments tend to be. So Canadians don't go on vacay as much. Canadians don't tend to like the American system as much. And that really upsets Lutnick that we won't buy their alcohol. No, no. Mm-mm. We have enough here. So here's somebody just saying, it's like, yeah, maybe they don't like us because we're assholes to them.
Okay. Last year, according to the World Travel and Tourism Council, the United States saw a 5.5% decline in international visitors. We were the only major economy to see any decline. In my home state of New Hampshire, tourism is the second largest industry, both by revenue, and it supports 70,000 jobs. Canada has long been our largest share of foreign visitors, but last year we saw a 30% drop in Canadian tourism, largely due to the loss of trust and goodwill.
I have a family member who still does travel to the United States from time to time for their kids in sports and stuff. And she says that, especially like down in Florida, that when they find out that she's Canadian, they're like, oh, thank you so much for coming down here. We really appreciate it. Like, thank you. It's nice to see a Canadian. Thank you for coming down here and still and spending money. Like, wow, this is nice. We've spotted a Canadian. That's how bad it's getting.
Because of this administration's rhetoric around Canada. Secretary Letnick, last week, you said about Canada's economic strategy, and I quote, "They suck."
Yeah, that really encourages us to want to go down into the States.
I believe your spokesperson then said this was about Canada's economy leeching off of the U.S. How does insulting our closest ally and neighbor help the businesses in my state of New Hampshire and states all across this country who are hurting because of the loss of Canadian business and tourism?
Canada's economy leans on the incredible $30 trillion economy of America. But
there's no doubt about that, Mr. Secretary. But insulting our closest ally and neighbor who provides a lot of business, we have a lot of businesses in New Hampshire, small businesses who work on both sides of the border. We have all those Canadian visitors who are not coming because of your comments and comments by the administration. How does that help our economy?
it is outrageous that Canada will not put U.S. spirits on the shelf.
How dare you impose consequences on our shitty behavior towards you? How dare you respond in such a way of not putting our spirits on your shelves? How dare you not? Do you hear yourself? You're so insulted we won't put American products on our shelves when we're not in need of it. After all of the name calling, after telling Canada over and over again how we suck, you're now upset that we don't want to play ball with you?
It is insulting.
It is.
And disrespectful to America that they won't
Absolutely.
even put...
And my husband has an interest in a company that has American spirits. And they won't do it because of the insults from this president and comments like yours. So I want to go on to another question.
But can I have just one small comment, which is dairy is treated so badly, and your state cares about dairy, and we are trying desperately to get them to live to the deal that they have on USMCA.
I prefer Canadian dairy. I'm just saying. Lot less hormones and crap put into our dairy and our milk and whatnot. I much, much prefer Canadian dairy.
And stop treating our dairy farmers so poorly, and your state cares about that, and we are fighting for that.
We do, but we are not going to get agreement when we keep insulting people. When we have allies and partners, we should try and work with them, not insult them. And I find your rhetoric insulting to the people in my state who are working so hard to try and ensure that they can do business. I want to move.
Mm-hmm. How dare you not like us anymore after we've done so much bullshit towards you? Like, they're just not able to comprehend the fact that they can't just get away with everything they want all the time without some pushback. Probably because they've gotten away with it for so long. But now that there's actual consequences, it's like, oh no. And thank you so much, 56 Nick Rich, for the $2 kitty treats and blessings. I super appreciate it, and so do my cats. Okay, let's queue up the next docket. We'll be getting into some provincial news, starting with federal. It's federal news, but it goes... No. Provincial first, and then the FOI stuff. Be this one? Yeah, okay, it's this one first. This is the longest docket I have for the night, but it's multiple different stories from the provinces, not just Ontario. We're going to be talking a little bit about Alberta, BC, and Manitoba, and how they all suck too. Seriously, Wabakanu, really? Really, you're doing this? Ugh. Okay, hello Paige, welcome to the SandBox. It's been a while. Let's see. Hello, Adore. Welcome to the SandBox. Not sure I've seen you before. So it's always good, if I don't recognize someone, to put this up on the screen. That's how bad I am at names. Let's see what people are saying. Oh, yeah, I'd like to get done a little bit earlier tonight because I plan on getting up early tomorrow, starting a real schedule again, getting back to the gym. Oh, and work on the video essay and paintings. I'll show the paintings again later on, now that there's probably a lot more people in the SandBox. I'll show the paintings that I did again at the end, when we're just trying to unwind from all the horrible news. People talking about moo-moos. So life a UBI in the US would need to be regional and secret. If it was known everyone got $1,000 check per month, the cost of living would go up by $1,200 a month. Greedy MFS. Yes, that's why like UBI is used, but there's also guaranteed livable income, that sort of thing. And like, I'm a proponent for things like that, but it has to be done in conjunction with other things. So there has to be price caps put on, grocery stores, retail, anything basic needs, but also maybe more socialized grocery stores, socialized housing, like add all of that in, expand our healthcare, make sure that it is completely comprehensive and covers everything. And then, yeah, it has to be taken into account that what it costs to live in Toronto versus what it costs to live here, just based on rent, is drastically different. And so it would have to account for that sort of thing, which again, if we just socialized 80% of the apartments, that would help. So it's not a simple fix. It's very complex, but it's very needed. Isidore, nepotism works best. Yes, the AI nepotism is now a thing. Like, that's the thing. I can't get a job now because my resume would never pass any sort of AI screening because I don't have a college diploma. So, and the only jobs, like real jobs that I've had in my life, have been more from I knew someone. Like, I have been able a long time ago to get some retail jobs and things of that sort, but you know, they were always temporary, seasonal, that sort of thing. Now those stores wouldn't hire me. A lot of them you have to apply online for, so that again means my resume is screened out before human eyes even see it, and yeah. Like they keep on telling people, you must go out there and get a job, but you're not forcing corporations to actually hire them. Because it'd be a nice little twist if I like, okay, I'll go through all the job ads and I'll find a job that I think that I can do that, you know, is something ideal for me that I'm good with. I'll find a job I'm good with. Now, government, go to that company and force them to hire me. Then I could get a job. That's the only way. Hello, Etchbox. Welcome to the SandBox. The Wild West, AI is not anti-capitalism. Correct, it's capitalism. I think that's in reference to something else that was being said in the SandBox. Let's see. Hopefully nobody's tuning in like right now as I just stare at the SandBox, saying nothing as I'm looking for things to respond to. Hello, 56 Nick Rich. Nice to see you again. Let's see. The Wild West, I can't afford to go on vacation or buy alcohol. Like, yeah. There's that. Etchbox, American Hunger Games are in August still. Oh, good to know, good to know. I'm sure if there were American Hunger Games, they'd be run by Mr. Beast. Hmm. 56 Nick Ridge, I buy Canadian booze and buds, the best. Okay, got the kitty cat treats. Not too many fans of Nutlick. Yes, I said Nutlick in the SandBox. I think that caught on from my Had a podcast. That name has really stuck. Lefty milk is a local product in Ireland. Most milk sold within 50 miles of where it's produced. It doesn't travel well, but Ireland is a tiny place. I would love to go to Ireland sometime. Edgebox. Zandy, that necklace looks like rock candy. It's not. It's just beads. But I get why you would say that. I get why you would say that. But I'm a little bit too adult to be wearing a candy necklace on camera. Let's see. Paige, I have a canker sore on my gum. Twice this has happened to me. And the first time I went to the doctor's because it was so fucking painful. I couldn't even swallow water without pain. So I'm like, oh my God, I got strep throat. You know, some disease. I should be hospitalized. Because it was so painful to swallow. And the doctor looks at my throat and it's like, oh, that's unusual. Nothing you can do about it. I had a canker on my uvula, the little thingy that hangs down. and it was facing forward too. So anything that went through my throat would pass by that. That hurt like a fucker. And of course it was facing forward, because why not? But yeah, on the little punching bag thing in the back of your throat, I had a canker on that. That was not good. Not good. But luckily, when I went to the walk-in clinic for that, I wasn't charged to be embarrassed. It's not the most embarrassing thing I went to the walk-in clinic for. And if I get a $5 super chat, I'll tell you the most embarrassing thing. That I have gone to a walk-in clinic for. Let's see. Lots of people chit-chatting back and forth, which is good. Helps this in the algorithms. True Democratic North for no reasons. Conservatives want everything to be more expensive. And fewer social safety nets. Let's see. Okay, I'm down to the bottom. And Paige Larson feels my pain when it comes to those cursors. Oh yeah, if I get a $5 super chat, I'll tell you the most embarrassing thing I gone to a walk-in clinic for. But until Real John Lethem, that's $4.99. There we go. Thank you so much for the $4.99 and the hype hippo. Really appreciate it, for Real John Lethem. Yeah, you're off by like a penny. So close to hearing about my most embarrassing thing. If somebody just sends in a 1-cent super chat. We don't even have pennies anymore in Canada. The exchange rate, though? Oh, true. That is American money, isn't it? Because it says it's Canadian when it's Canadian. So technically that is over $5 Canadian. Okay. Okay. So you get to hear the most embarrassing thing that I went to a walk-in clinic for. Again, luckily it didn't cost me anything other than, you know, my pride. But there was a weird sound that I was hearing when I would like crunch, like not crunch, but like move my jaw. I would hear like a in one side. And I was like, oh my God, I think something's wrong. Like it's the beginning of an ear infection or something, because, or there's something wrong with my jaw, because whenever I would open and close my mouth, quite often I hear this like this, and so I'm like, there must be like something severely wrong here. Never happened to me before. And so, of course, I'm concerned. And I went to a walk-in clinic and I wait, you know, over an hour as per normal. Could have been longer than that. And I explain it to the doctor and I'm very worried. And I'm like, I think I might be getting an infection. Like I was worried about the pain that I would eventually get. Like there was no pain, but it's like, oh, it's the precursor and then it's going to be really painful. So let's deal with this before I have to deal with pain type thing. And so the doctor's like, okay. And he gets the little thing that he looks through and he shoves it in my ear and he looks in and he's like, do you by chance have cats? I'm like, yeah. Why? A cat hair had wiggled into my ear hole and was resting on my eardrum, so that when I moved my jaw, it caused it to go against the eardrum. Yeah, it's like, this is good actually, because it's not too often that somebody goes to a walk-in clinic and they can instantly solve it, and it's nothing actually bad. So he goes back out in the hall, and I hear him and the nurse laughing hysterically. And the nurse comes in, still smiling, as she gets some like saline fluid and stuff to basically then just wash it out of my ear hole. Yeah. That happened. Thank God I didn't have to pay anything for that here in Canada. I could just go to the walk-in clinic and be embarrassed for free. Yeah. Hasn't happened since. Edgebox, yeah, it was better than having an actual bug, and I've had like severe ear infections before, so. Hello, Neuro Riot. Welcome to the SandBox. Yeah, Neuro Riot, that's what the doctor was like. This is kind of a nice thing because it's an easy fix. There's nothing wrong. You know, it's instantly solved, as opposed to being like, oh, we have to do all these tests and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. But yeah, that happened. It happened. Anyway, let's get on with some provincial news. And this is the largest docket I have because it goes back and forth with a bunch of different stories. And then after this, we have one more docket, which is just talking about the FOI that Doug Ford has gotten rid of. Freedom of information. Or, as I put in the title of this, I thought it was pretty snazzy when I thought of it. You know, fuck Ontario indefinitely is what Doug Ford is doing. It's the FOI, fuck Ontario indefinitely. Let's see. News share. Gotta change the news thingy. That to this. There we go. So we're starting in Alberta. This is from CBC News. Dutch YouTube creators behind Alberta separatist videos getting millions of views. You mean there's foreign interference with our separatist movement here in Canada? Not shocking. What's shocking is how easy this sort of stuff is these days, especially with AI and stuff. Like, it used to be some political ads were so bad, so offensive, that they wouldn't be able to find actors to do it. And now it's like, well, if we can't find the actors to do it, we can just have a soulless AI say whatever we want. So, from the article, people based in the Netherlands are behind several YouTube channels that promote Alberta separatism, but are fronted by hired actors, according to an investigation by CBC News Visual Investigation Team and Radio-Canada. French word. CBC News identified 3 individuals in the Netherlands whose digital trail links them to accounts that hire actors to appear on YouTube channels. 2 of them attend. Conservatives and right-wingers and right-wing agendas are so much like this because they know how unpopular they were, because a lot of you might have forgotten that way back when Doug Ford was first running to become premier, he hired actors to show up at one of his campaign stops. He denied it and said, oh, maybe the campaign did it. But yeah, that was a thing. That happened. And then Donald Trump had also done that when he first started. And so, yeah, this is a strategy that they use that unfortunately does end up paying off later on down the road. So 2 of them attended the same online course that teaches customers how to create faceless YouTube channels that generate passive income for the creators who remain in the shadows. I've seen some of those YouTube channels, and I still wish there was a way on YouTube that I could filter out videos that are AI generated, that use an AI script, an AI voice, or AI images. Just filter them all out. I don't want to see them. So many of the videos contain sensationalized and misleading views of Canadian politics and promoted through thumbnails featuring images of Alberta Premier Daniel Smith and Prime Minister Mark Carney with headlines that are blatantly false. 2 individuals reached by CBC News denied involvement despite the evidence tying them to the scheme. So these are the thumbnails, all AI generated. Like, I know my thumbnails suck, but at least I made them suck. They suck because I made them. They don't suck because, you know, I used AI. But my God, look at the views on these things. Like, I'll get maybe 200 views on this live stream, but over 500,000 views regularly on these things. Like, come on. And yeah, if you make one of these faceless YouTube accounts and you just generate AI content to do this, you're making a killing by doing nothing. So this week, a report by the Media Ecosystem Observatory, a joint project between the University of Toronto, McGill University, and Montreal, looking into Canadian media, identified 20 YouTube channels as part of a coordinated network focused on separatism in Western Canada, Canadian provinces, and other political issues. The report noted they use near identical scripts and dubbed them slopaganda. Altogether, the accounts have garnered roughly 40 million views. That's like 1 view per Canadian. The report says many of the videos contain frequent and obvious lies, drawing on real news stories to reach exaggerated conclusions designed to exploit political divisions. The report did not identify individuals behind the apparent network, citing lack of identifying information to real humans or organizations, nor ties to the cessation of movement in Alberta. The channels. There we go. Those are the channels. If you watch one of these channels, you're not watching real politics. The Canadian Politician, Canadian Hub. Oh, hello, Many Doctors, and thank you so much for the gifted membership. Super appreciated. Maple Talk News, Canadian Political Brief. See, I came up with the best name. It's not Canadian-centric, but Left of the Box. It's the best name for a YouTube channel. That's on the left side of things. So, I think it's disturbing that these voices are able to insert themselves in the conversation and that their interest is not to further democratic discourse or have healthy, authentic conversations, said Chris Ross, a senior analyst at the Media Ecosystem Observatory. And it's also frustrating as somebody who is trying to make this YouTube channel a good chunk of my income, that I have to compete with these channels that are just algorithmically geared with AI scripts, no work put into it. But I have to compete with them as the same as any other channel that uses real humans. Like, we're competing against what would be a good way of saying it? We're competing against no, I wouldn't say like a binary system. We're competing against ghosts that don't, things that don't exist. And they are taking up so much algorithmic space. They're flooding the algorithms with just this slopaganda, as they say. And real people who are putting time and energy and authenticity into their stuff get sidelined. Because this kind of ties into what I was saying earlier about the resumes. You know, how resumes are screened out by AI, and the AI has a tendency to select resumes that were rewritten by the same program. So AI selects their own AI program. And so with the algorithms also being run by AI, they identify other AI stuff and kick that up to the top because It's all interconnected. They recognize it and they seem to think that that's better. So anyway, they're putting themselves in the middle of that, misleading Albertans, Canadians, and they're just doing it to make money. The CBC News investigation found that 4 of the accounts are hosted by actors who either use different names or only their first name on YouTube accounts on which they appear. One of the accounts, the Canadian politician, received more than 350,000 total views, according to the MEO report. The account features a video introducing the channel hosted by a person who identifies himself as James. But James is known to the public as Matt Berry, a Calgary-based media worker. CBC News found him using a reverse image search. It's fucked up, said Berry in an interview. I feel so violated. I'm not part of a separatist movement. I'm literally like the opposite. Berry said he has responded to a job posting on the gig work site Upwork, had gotten in touch with the client and sent an audition video. He said the audition video had been used on the channel without his knowledge or permission, and that he never signed a contract with anyone nor been paid for his work. The other videos on the channel appeared to use an AI-generated voiceover that does not sound like Berry. Two X accounts linked to YouTube channels, including the Canadian politician, state that they were created while connected to the Netherlands App Store. A third X account is based in the Netherlands, according to the platform, because you can see all of that now. I wonder if we want to watch the video here. No, it's probably just repeated what was said in the article. Yes, you can now go to anyone's Twitter account and find out where the account was created. Berry provided CBC News with screenshots of his correspondence with the person who hired him on Upwork. The name used in the account is that, and their profile states that they are based in the Netherlands. The conversation moved to Discord, where an account named Dan shared several documents hosted on Google Docs with Berry. One of the documents is owned by an email account, Canadian, and so on and so forth. Okay. Of course, the person denied it, that they were doing this. So another one, Canadian Hub, which advertises itself as delivering straight talk, real context, and clear views of what's happening in Canada and the world. The channel is hosted by Paul Nicholas, who is based in the US. So I will toss this into the SandBox so you can see more of this if you like, but faceless YouTube content. It's not clear that the individuals identified in CBC News are connected. However, Digital Clues linked 2 of them to the same online course. This course, Faceless Education Community. There might come a time where I don't want to use my face on this channel because I just age out, but you know, until then, this is 100% organic intelligence, organic generated images right here. This is organic generated. Faceless Education advertises itself as a way to learn how to grow a profitable YouTube channel without ever showing your face. The course is hosted by Niels van der Leide. Its website is Dutch, and the page on School, a site for online courses and communities, states that it has more than 4,000 members. And then even in the CBC article, they're like, the shitty side of YouTube faceless. Oh, my, how the media has lowered its standard of language. So the Discord chats person similarly flagged by MEO as being the result of copying a successful model. Yeah, it's a bit of the shitty side of YouTube faceless, this person wrote. People copy what works. Ha ha ha. Sorry, but why are you putting that in the quote? Ha ha. We are also in no way related to US Canadian misinformation. We just earn AdSense revenue by making content. Ha ha. In messages to Berry, seen by CBC News, the Dan Discord account sent 2 others Netherlands-linked YouTube channels to feature blah, 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 blah. So, off to the SandBox with you. But you see, it's not just these faceless YouTube accounts that are spreading misinformation and stuff, sending it off to like 40 million views through all of them and that sort of stuff. It's not just, these completely fake AI generated accounts. We also have to contend with a massive spreader of misinformation in Canada. And it's also from an organic generated device in the form of Joe Rogan. So somebody's saying, so it's fuck Post Malone now? I think he's a music person. I don't listen to Post Malone. But here, Joe Rogan and Post Malone call out Canada is fucking falling apart. And the shit they did during COVID was just the total wrong direction. So you're having this doorknob talking about Canada he doesn't know shit about with other people who don't know shit about Canada. And I've seen them have like conversations about MAID before. That's the medical assistant in dying. That is just wrong. Like, they spread so much misinformation to millions of people. And he's never held accountable for it either. Like, even just the COVID misinformation they spread probably led to some people dying. There's no way to know for sure, but, I'm guessing. And so now there's shit like this. I don't actually want to play it just because I don't want to get hit up, even though I don't think I will, because I've seen Joe Rogan clips on other things, but you never know. You never know. Okay, maybe I'll try because Vigilant Fox logo is on it. So maybe that will let me get away with it. But if you're watching this live stream later on and you don't see it, it's because YouTube made me cut it out. Because of course, fake accounts, faceless accounts, they can do all this shit. But if I try to use something in fair use, whew.
Would you ever consider living in another country?
I would have said Canada up until recently.
I'm so glad you don't want to live here. Like, no loss, no love loss here.
Now Canada's fucking falling apart. All the shit that they did during COVID was just the total wrong direction.
Yeah, all that shit we did here in Canada that saved lives. Because if you look at per capita deaths from COVID from the United States to Canada, there's a drastic difference. A lot less people died per capita in Canada than in the United States because we actually did something about COVID.
Fuck the trucker convoy when they froze people's
You can't make
bank
honking your
assets.
horns illegal.
Bro, they froze people's bank accounts.
The trucker convoy was not a peaceful protest. It was the occupation of Ottawa for 3 weeks. Driving people literally insane with the horn honking and the aggression from people, all of that sort of stuff. The municipality didn't do their job in ticketing people and getting people to not block roads and all that sort of stuff. The province didn't do its job. Doug Ford went to his fucking cottage. And I don't necessarily agree with what Justin Trudeau did, but I also understand that he was put into a bind and he had to shut it down. He had to free Ottawa. Because that's a fucking embarrassment to have the capital of our country occupied by a bunch of redneck corporate truck owners. And nothing is being done for 3 weeks. Well, people in that city are suffering.
Donated money to the convoy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
And it wasn't just anyone who donated. There were reasons why bank accounts were frozen and stuff. Again, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I do understand Justin Trudeau was kind of put into a bind because the municipality and the province didn't do what they were supposed to.
And what's
peaceful protest, which everybody's supposed to be all about.
Right.
These people that were protesting COVID vaccine mandates and the lockdowns, and they.
Anyway, we get the point. People like Joe Rogan also spread tons of misinformation about Canada, which only adds to the ability of these fake AI accounts to thrive. Because in a way, Joe Rogan endorses them. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if Joe Rogan starts quoting one of these channels, being like, oh yeah, I was listening to Maple Talk News and they said this about Canada. Totally buying it. It wouldn't surprise me if it eventually got to that. All these AI generated thumbnails look the fucking same to me. Anyway, back to Alberta. So Alberta moves to allow private diagnostic tests without a doctor's referral. Oh, because what can go wrong there? You know, if it was up to me to diagnose myself last week, I thought I had a chest infection. So you know what? Because I thought I had a chest infection, I should just be able to go to the pharmacy and say, I want antibiotics, even though they're not necessary and you shouldn't take antibiotics unless they are. But you know what? People will Google their own issues and say, I think I need some sort of MRI or something of that sort, when really they don't. And then it's just taking away from people who need it. Plus, they're paying out of pocket for it because Alberta is well on its way to privatizing all its health care. And all the people are like, why isn't the federal government, enforcing the Canada Health Act? Because the federal government is a fucking conservative government run by a banker. They're not going to save us. So Albertans could soon pay out of pocket to get private diagnostic testing without a doctor's referral. Bill 29, if passed, would allow Albertans to self-refer to private clinics later this year. Primary and Preventative Health Services Minister Adriana Lagrange said it will free up the public system and help identify medical conditions early. It's about giving Albertans more control over their health while maintaining the strong public health care system that we all rely on. Their public health care system has crumbled into a pile of dust. Not strong anymore. She said early detection can save lives and put less pressure on the system. So invest more in the public system so that people can get diagnosed earlier by professionals. That would help. Details on criteria on which tests will be included will be revealed later this year. The changes have been mentioned in Premier Danielle Smith's 2025 mandate letter to Lagrange and were previously announced in a government video last year. In that video, Lagrange said Albertans will be able to buy any diagnostic or screening test they want, including MRI, CT scans, and full body scans. Lagrange said the legislation would permit lifestyle testing done in countries like Japan and South Korea, citing blood work to check vitamin or hormone levels as an example. But she said the government may take a phased approach, starting with one or two kinds of tests. Being the first in the country to do this, we want to be able to walk before we run. We're looking to make sure that the public system is protected first and foremost. They're allowed to lie. It is ridiculous how much they are allowed to lie when it comes to this. Anyway, last year announcement of the self-referrals prompted some doctors to warn about a shortage of skilled technologists. Lagrange said it's about adding capacity to the system, not taking away. Well, you're not adding doctors and technologists. You're funneling them away from the public system, which will make wait lists longer. So the NDP saying the ones who pay out of pocket will have access. It will not be based on need, but based on who can pay first. Anyway, I'll toss the rest of this into the SandBox for people. Just want to keep on moving along. So Raghu here, who is Canadian emergency physician, is just kind of like, so here's how medicine actually works. And this is why self-diagnosis probably not a good idea. So 1, a patient has symptoms. They feel something. Let's say there's a headache. 2, a clinical history is taken, a story. 3, a physical exam is done. Maybe that headache is shingles. 4, a different diagnosis is generated, a list of ideas of what could be the problem. 5, treatment, testing, or both are considered. Let's do a swab of that rash just above your hairline and treat with that. 6, a test or treatment is done and the situation is reassessed. Ah, I see the rash has crusted over now. Ew. And it's the shingle swab is positive. You don't need an MRI. 7, at any point a specialist opinion may be needed. The shingles has progressed close to your eye now. Let's get to look at you. The way medicine doesn't work is I have a headache and I book myself into a private MRI, which is normal because an MRI doesn't diagnose shingles, migraine headaches, temporal arteritis, or acute angle closure glaucoma. It's insane to think that there's no one likely advising Alberta government on how actual medicine is performed in 2026, or for that matter, 2016, 2006, and so on. The thing that should never happen is symptom leading to get myself tested jumping the queue just because you have more money in jumping ahead of someone, maybe with a new brain cancer on CT that really needs an MRI more than you for the shingles. None of what Alberta is doing is for patient good. It's for something else, but not for patients. More shit from Alberta. Surf's quote tweeting Danielle saying, when you've completely destroyed the public healthcare system and are attempting a treasonous separation from the country, it makes sense you'd want to distract everyone with culture war policies that do nothing except oppress minorities. So this is from the United Conservative Party. Parents want, well, I don't have to read this because it'll be in here. So our government is taking action with Bill 25 to keep politics and ideology out of the classroom, protect critical thinking, and ensure schools remain focused on education.
Parents want their kids to learn how to read, to write, to do math, to code, maybe even get a trade, maybe learn a language. They don't want.
Thank you, Bad Lefty, for letting me know that I was just rated by Lucy Hayes. Thank you so much, and welcome to the SandBox, everyone. Yeah, pawn jumpers, super appreciate it. Talking about Canadian politics here. Everyone, go check out Lucy Hayes' channel and support a small content creator. She does good work. Okay, back to the video.
To code, maybe even get a trade, maybe learn a language. They don't want them to become social justice woke warriors. And I think we've seen a lot.
You know what? Maybe some people do want their kids to be social justice woke warriors. I'm just saying. There might be some people out there that want that. But how about just let the child have their own autonomy to discover who they are and be who they want to be. And if they want to be a social justice warrior, then let them.
A lot of ideology in the classroom. And
of course, just being gay or queer or trans, it's not who you are. It's an ideology, according to dickwads like her.
In recent years, parents have had enough of it. And I think the kids have had enough of it. I hear from high school students who tell me, why do I have to write my essay in a certain way? Otherwise, my teacher will mark me down.
Kind of the point of writing an essay is to write an essay in a certain way. Why can't I just write it in Twitter using TweetSpeak and submit that? Like, why do I actually have to follow any sort of like template for an essay? I should just be able to use ChatGPT to write my essay. How dare you make me use critical thinking skills?
That's not what schools are for.
Actually, schools are for just that.
Schools are supposed to teach kids critical thinking. And that means you hear multiple sides of multiple issues, and you help the child get through to figure out what their own views are and what they think is the truth. Parents want their kids.
They don't know what critical thinking actually means. Oh, well, they should be able to hear all sides except the gay side. They shouldn't be able to hear any side that has a rainbow in it. And then they can come to their own conclusions after we bash trans folks. But they're not the only one. You know, if BC had their way, if some conservatives in BC had their way, they'd also be just as bad on trans folks as Alberta. And so somebody's saying, fuck off, just let people live in peace for fuck's sakes. We don't need this culture war BS in British Columbia. Now, for the longest time when I was like growing up and stuff like that, British Columbia was seen as like the laid back, kind of chilled out, more progressive province. But they have spawned some of the most vile, racist, turfy people that have managed to get into government that I have seen. Like just pure trash MLAs in BC. And so here we have new BC Conservative leadership candidate. So this is a candidate for the Conservative Party BC. Tells me she would use the notwithstanding clause to ban transgender surgeries for minors and ban biological males from accessing women's spaces. So following in the footsteps of Alberta, because that's exactly what Alberta did. And you're just basically telling people preemptively you're going to violate human rights. Because the only reason why they're using the notwithstanding clause is to violate human rights.
Hello, Miss Elliott. Ellie Canton-Nantel with EMC and Media. Your platform promises to ban transgender surgeries for minors and to give women's spaces for biological women. You will likely face a legal challenge from activists if that's implemented. Would you be willing to use the notwithstanding clause to put that into policy?
I would.
Hello, Miss.
Yeah. If people challenge me on the aspect of human rights, I will absolutely use the notwithstanding clause to override them. Yep. Vote for me for conservative leader. So that's bad. That is like really bad. But as mentioned, that thing about racism in BC and having some of the most vile racist, like just diarrhea, verbal inducing, horrid people like Tara Armstrong. So this account saying blood and soil was adopted by the Nazi Party and subsequent neo-Nazi movements. Its fundamental concept of Nazism. Darvoing Indigenous rights, using Nazi ideology to hear it spoken in the BC legislature by an MLA is very, very bad. So this is somebody who sits in office in BC. Someone who was elected to this position.
In fact, it doesn't even attempt to reconcile the Comox ban with the historical reality of Crown sovereignty. On the contrary, it promotes UNDRIP's blood and soil theory that people with Indigenous ancestry have their own inherent rights based upon what are described as inextricable links to the land.
They do have inherent rights to the land because they're Indigenous.
In fact,
but that's not the worst that she's done. How is this allowed to be tweeted out by somebody who is sitting in the legislature? How is this not condemned? How is she not being kicked out of office? I don't know. But Terrell Telefaus is saying, protests at every single public event Tara Armstrong attends until she steps down. This is disgraceful for a Canadian politician to post this day in an age and just days after the 150th anniversary of the Indian Act. Canada is regressing. And I covered it earlier in this live stream, how Amnesty International is saying, yeah, Canada is going backwards on Indigenous rights. This is the tweet that she sent out. Slavery, cannibalism, and brutal warfare defined life in North America before Crown establishment established authority over these lands. Wow. That is really gross. Founding Canada to afford equal rights to all people was a good thing. I reject these new treaties because I reject UNDRIP's ethno-nationalism. She is like, there are not enough words to describe how horrid this woman is. We're not going to be watching this video because it's over 13 minutes long, but like, this is some of the grossest language I can think of. And the fact that somebody was elected into office who says this bullshit? Absolutely unreal. Well, we're going to move on to Manitoba and a very different subject, but also just like, Wob Canoe, why? Why? I've had my issues with Wob Canoe. Like, when he sent out his condolences for, Charlie Kirk being murdered. Yeah, saying it was such a tragedy and stuff. Somebody who would probably concur with this lady here. So Wob Canoe says our kids are not for sale. We're moving forward with the first in Canada plan to ban social media and AI chatbots for youth. I'm fine with banning AI chatbots. We can just do that across the board. This becomes a little bit more problematic because these platforms are built to capture attention, not protect it. Childhood should be about learning, growing, and being present, not endless scrolling designed for profit. We owe the next generation something simple, the freedom to be kids. A lot done, a lot more to do. How long is this? Okay.
Our kids will never be for sale, and their attention and their childhoods should never be profited from. We owe the next generation of Manitobans a simple promise: freedom to be a kid and to enjoy this beautiful place that we call home. The focus of our society should be to train our next generation. It shouldn't be to train the next AI model.
Okay, let's ban the AI. I'm totally on board with that. But here's the thing. It's not the social media that's bad. It's this part. These platforms are built to capture attention, not protect it. Start there. Start going after the companies who purposely make their stuff addictive to kids. Start with the algorithms to make it so that this isn't such a case. Start with, the whole attention span thing and the quick gimmicky things and focus on that. Focus on the companies that are purposely changing their platforms to capture attention. Because what this leads to is everyone in Canada having to use government ID to get onto social media. And that is a whole lot of wrong. That should not be a thing. And it also restricts who can get onto social media for all sorts of different reasons and on and on and on. It is just extraordinarily problematic to say we're going to ban it to kids, because then it relies on AI to try to identify who these kids are based on browsing history and whatnot. Like, it's just, no. Go after YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Google, Facebook, Meta, all of those, for purposely designing algorithms to be addictive. Do that first. Anyway, moving on to Ontario. So Colin DeMello, probably be seeing a lot more clips from him because Tina Yazdani was fired, and I used to show a lot of her clips. Colin DeMello is from Global News. She's from CTV News, and CTV News probably got a call that she needs to go because she was challenging the Doug Ford government a little too much. Colin also does that, but he's from Global News, and Global News took Doug Ford to court to get those phone records that triggered the whole FOI thing, which will be in the next docket. So Colin DeMello, still, at least we still have some good journalists, but if Doug Ford had his way, all of them would be gone. Anyway, so Focus Ontario Solicitor General Michael Kenzer was forced to apologize after offering the legislator inaccurate information on mistakenly released inmates. The premier later revealed 6 are still on the loose. So I covered this back when the news story, so this is like a follow-up, that over 100 inmates had just been released accidentally. You know, Doug Ford, tough on crime, but over 100 had just been released. And at the time they said, oh, but they were all recaptured immediately. Well, that was a lie. And so there's some people who were in jail, potentially guilty of actual crimes, just out there. So much for that tough on crime Doug Ford loves to brag about.
You're watching Focus Ontario on Global.
There's still 6 prisoners at large, and they're going to...
Here's a criminal at large right here. I see a criminal at large right here. This guy right... Look, this could be his mugshot. Let's just make this into his mugshot. How about that?
Be captured, but it's unacceptable. No excuses.
Quite a stunning admission there from Premier Doug Ford that 6 inmates mistakenly released from Ontario's jails are still on the loose in this province. That's on top of the 150 inmates who were accidentally released since 2021. Most of those have been captured, leading to fierce blowback from the opposition.
Speaker, the government lost 150 prisoners and no one is being held accountable. The minister knew and never told the public.
If I fucked up the way that these people fucked up, there's no way I would be able to keep any job. But this guy who's like, oh yeah, over 150 inmates released, we don't know why, disappeared, now 6 of them haven't even been recaptured. I didn't report it when it first happened. Yeah. Still has his job, getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
The minister knew and failed to act. The minister knew and did nothing. Yesterday, the premier let it slip that there are at least 6 prisoners on the run in Ontario right now.
But the Solicitor General, the man responsible for Ontario's jail system, landed in hot water himself over inconsistent statements. At first, Michael Kersner claimed the inmates were recaptured almost instantaneously. Then he said they were caught as soon as possible, leading to questions from reporters.
So, okay, it's just a little different. Like, yeah, I know I said instantaneously, but what I really meant ASAP, as soon as possible. Which is kind of instantaneously, no, That was just a lie. Our politicians should not be allowed to lie like this. A lot of our issues in government would be solved if quite simply our politicians weren't allowed to lie.
You said that it was instantaneously last week. Today you said as soon as possible. Which one is the truth?
Well, what we know is that the police are notified immediately, and they have to make sure that those people are reapprehended.
The minister was then forced to apologize. This week he abruptly rose in the legislature to correct the record.
I was imprecise in my language relating to the immediate reapprehension of those individuals improperly released, and I'd like to correct my record without reservation. I inadvertently referenced the immediate reapprehension of improperly released inmates rather than clarifying that the local police of jurisdiction were notified immediately. I apologize.
Oh, yeah, that's quite the slip of the tongue there. No, we notified people immediately, the police, but nobody was captured immediately. Huh. Can I use that as an excuse? Is that are people buying it? No, we're not. We're not actually.
Unreservedly to the members of this House for providing them with information that was not fully accurate. Thank you.
So while the Premier has called the situation unacceptable, Ford indicated he has no plans to demote or remove the minister from his role, despite calls from the opposition. Meanwhile,
And on to more from Colin DeMello. No longer a mistake. Premier Doug Ford said he's now getting calls from the public to keep the damn plane, as he stresses that he's the only apologizing for the failure to communicate the decision properly. So this goes back to the gravy plane. So this is in their follow-up story. Doug Ford bought a jet for nearly $30 million, a luxury jet. And part of the reason why he wants to expand the Billy Bishop Airport in Toronto is so that he can land that jet in downtown Toronto, make it more convenient for him. And he made all these excuses and stuff. There was massive public pushback on that. The FOI, not so much. But on the gravy plane, that was just so egregious that people are like, oh, fuck no. So now Doug Ford is lying about it. And there's other things that are kind of a little wonky, like they're not too sure where he got the plane, who the plane got back to, how much money was spent. If only there was this thing, like if only we could, force the government to hand over certain paperwork so that we can find out what went into it. Like, maybe like a freedom, like compel them somehow, like through a freedom of information request. If we could compel them to hand over this information, if only. If only. And I seriously doubt Doug Ford is getting phone calls saying he should keep the plane.
Premier Doug Ford struck a somber tone as he defended his need for a government jet. While the premier is not showing any remorse, he does say the decision to sell the jet is final. One day after Doug Ford said it was a mistake to buy a $28.9 million jet, the Ontario Premier is changing his tune, saying the purchase was still the right decision. The mistake? Failing to sell the idea to taxpayers.
I didn't lie and manipulate you enough before I tried buying it. Yeah, that was the mistake. That there was the mistake, was not manipulating you guys before I bought it, trying to do it after I bought it. Order of operation thing. I should have done the other part first.
It's my responsibility. I should have put the case forward a lot clearer than I did. So for that, I apologize.
Ford argued that as premier, his time is valuable, and a government jet would allow him to fly in and out of cities where a deal is likely to be struck. The premier claims
a lot of cities that he needs to travel to and from already have small airports, and he can get a charter plane or just fly commercial. Could do that. But he doesn't want to speak with civilians. That might get uncomfortable for him if he has to go on a plane with just everyday Ontarians. Those everyday Ontarians might have something to say to him that he doesn't want to hear.
That explanation has resonated with the public.
My phone was inundated just from strangers saying, keep the damn plane. And I made a decision.
Some random strangers are just calling me up and keep the plane.
But the surprise announcement that Ontario bought the jet in the first place flew in the face of Doug Ford's brand. Elected in 2018 and a mantra of respect for taxpayers, Ford once boasted about only flying commercial because government planes were wasteful.
Being hypocritical is often poison for a politician because it undermines a trust that's already weakly held. Most people don't trust politicians generally, and so when you can build some trust and you squander it, maybe if it didn't intend to, by doing something like this, it may not come back.
It is that inconsistency that the opposition has been trying to drive home.
This is the same premier who used to stand here and say he was against excessive government spending, right? He said he was going to, stop the gravy trade. Remember that?
Ford, aware of the sensitivity, distanced himself from the jet.
It wasn't Doug Ford's plane. I know it sounded great.
The fucking talking about yourself in third person. I want to hear like a psychological analysis, like some professional who has a PhD in this type of behavior, because both him and Donald Trump do this all the fucking time, is talk about themselves in the third person. I want to know why. What's wrong in their brains that cause them to do that? And why they're both very similar.
It sounded sexy. It's good for media hits and so on and forth. Never. It was my plane.
But when asked whether his personal brand was damaged by this affair,
I don't think there's any damage because I'm the only premium that gets out there
You can't damage something that's already that broken.
and says, hey, you know, this didn't go down the right aisle or right lane. And this is right now, it's about 50-50, probably even a little higher on the keep the plane side now. And I get out there and tell them what I'm going to do to correct it.
despite the Premier's assertion, some progressive conservatives tell me that this was entirely off-brand for the Premier, that it makes him look arrogant. In the words of one progressive conservative, they said that this could be the start of Doug Ford's undoing.
A little too little, too late type thing with that sort of stuff. And nothing pisses me off more than, you know, politicians who will be off record saying, yeah, I don't agree with what my party is doing. No, and this is too little, too late. The amount of damage Doug Ford has already done will be felt for generations. The amount of social murder this man is responsible for, you can never make up for that. The amount of people in destitute, living unhoused, in encampments, who have lost everything because of this man, you can't fix that. People need to be held accountable. Like, it's not enough to just vote Doug Ford out. He needs, like, charges need to be put up on him. He needs to go to court, investigations, all of that sort of stuff. He needs to be behind fucking bars. All of his wealth, everything needs to be taken away. All of his investments and fraud that he's been doing and money he's been sending off to corporations and stuff like that. All of that needs to be investigated. All of that money needs to be reclaimed for Ontario. All of these shitty deals that he's done that is just bleeding this province of all of its public funding and stuff like that needs to be reversed. All of this needs to happen. It's not enough to just vote him out. So, here's a little bit more about, this might have been a sketchy purchase to begin with. He's now facing political pressure to release the official documents. If only, again, there was a way to compel him to do it.
From the time the Ford government announced the purchase of this jet up until now, there hasn't been a single document shared by the Premier's office. Now, some here at Queen's Park are calling on the government to provide proof. Call it the Ford fire sale. Less than a week after the Ford government announced it bought a $28.9 million jet for the Premier's official travel, and the government turned around and sold it.
Bad communications. I can announce we sold the plane for the same price right back to Bombardier and said, okay, you take it back. And
Global News has learned that Bombardier, which originally manufactured the plane, acted as a broker for the province of Ontario, sourcing the jet for the government, which is why they bought it back. But all of that information, from the price tag for the purchase to the sale, has come from the Premier's office, without a shred of evidence to back it up.
And the Premier's office is so trustworthy. Can believe anything they say. Yeah, it's not like they can lie or anything.
How about they just clear this up and give us the bill of sale, the bill of resale, the contracts for the pilots? Let's just clear this up. He bought the jet. He can't seem to land this issue. How about he land it by just pulling out the documents?
The finance minister who approved the jet and has defended its use seemed to be unaware of the details.
When did Bombardier buy this?
Well, it would have happened in the last, I'm not aware of the specific time, but in the last number of hours. But the Premier was clear. You know, we're not taking possession of the plane. We sold it back at the same price. We're moving.
That never happens. Unless it's like an actual return. You don't sell something back at the same price.
Moving on.
While the government wants to move on, the opposition says they will never let the Premier forget it.
He bought a luxury jet when people can't afford groceries and rent and gas. He owns that. It's never going away. It's part of his legacy.
I don't really care about those feckless politicians because there's already so many egregious things that Doug Ford has done that has been completely forgotten.
The Ford government is promising it will reveal all of the documents related to the purchase of this jet, but it just isn't saying when. In the meantime, the Ontario NDP is asking the Auditor General to investigate, look at whether or not there were any financial losses to the taxpayer. At Queen's Park, Colin DeMello, Global News.
So, a little bit more in how Doug Ford is completely becoming an authoritarian dictator in Ontario. Like, again, this goes against everything that conservatives say they want, like small government, not stealing land, and all this sort of stuff. My God, there is nothing stopping Doug Ford from doing whatever the fuck he wants, and it's only going to benefit his wealthy friends and corporations and stuff. Somebody needs to stop him now. And I mean, like, you know, again, non-violently. I'm not suggesting anything violent, but there has to be ways to stop somebody who is a blatant criminal being in office that is blatantly doing things that is wrong. We know these are wrong. There has to be something in the system that can force him out of the office. And we need the politicians with the spine to actually enforce this or demand, you know, that he step down. There needs to be protests. There needs to be people in the streets. Government shouldn't be allowed to function so long as he is premier. So Christy Wong-Tam is an NDP MPP, and she is saying Ford's hatred for Ontario they're saying Ford's hatred for Toronto has no limits. He introduced a bill to take over the city's portion of Billy Bishop Airport and Little Norway Park. So expanding more and more and more of what he's just stealing. And he passed a bill in order for him to just be allowed to steal these things. He's passed laws that allow him to run his criminal empire. And a lot of people are suspecting the only reason why he wanted Billy Bishop Airport was so that he could land his jet, so that he could expand the runways to land the jet. So a 2.4 hectare park in Bathurst Street and Queens Quay West, with a ball diamond, wading pool, playground, public art, and walking paths. The province is not just a signatory to the tripartite agreement over the airport. It's owned 2/3 by the feds and 1/3 by the city. Call your Liberal MP and tell them to help us stop Ford from paving over the lake and green spaces. And in a city like Toronto, having a nice little park like this is needed. A little bit more on this. So Corrupt Ontario says, as per Bill 5, so this is very similar to Bill C5, you know, that the federal government passed. Well, we have Bill 5. Ford can take any part of Ontario and give it to anyone for any reason. They don't even have to notify us, just declare it a special economic zone. So he has passed the law to be able to feed his, you know, criminal organization, his criminal empire. Inside an SEZ, existing laws, rules, regulations don't apply. Doug writes the law, turnips has for 8 years. Because apparently Olivia Chow is getting mad. So it's just a power grab, Chow says. Toronto will fight back against seizure of Little Norway Park for Billy Bishop expansion.
And modernize the runway.
Yesterday, the province introduced legislation that said they're going to expropriate this land as part of the plan to expand Billy Bishop Airport and eventually bring jets into that.
So they're not going to expropriate empty housing units that just sit there because of greedy corporations or people who have like 10 different properties. They're not going to expropriate that for the absolute housing crisis that we are in. But they'll expropriate this park so that they can expand a runway at a tiny airport that nobody wants to happen. The people who live in the area, Torontonians, they don't want this. They want this park. This park would literally be paved over with concrete. Like it would just be taken away. This is not what the people want.
Well, City Council and Toronto's mayor said that that's just not acceptable. And the mayor today holding a press conference in the park here saying that council is going to try and fight back. The reality is, though, that City Council doesn't have much in the way of power because Toronto is a creature of the provincial government. The mayor says that the province plans to pave this park, although in the next breath she'll tell you that she doesn't know what the plans are and doesn't know what's going to happen to this parkland. The Minister of Transportation, who I spoke with just a few minutes ago, says this will remain parkland, that it's being expropriated as part of the larger redevelopment, and there's no plans to take away the green space. It just, for planning purposes, needs to be expropriated.
We're not going to change anything. We just need to expropriate it. But it'll still be a park and everything, but we're just going to steal it. We're going to steal it from Toronto.
The mayor and the Minister of Transportation.
Show us the plan. What is the plan? Has anyone been consulted? No. Has any level, does the federal government know what's going on? I doubt it. And certainly the City of Toronto, we have not been consulted. The people here have not been consulted. No one has seen a concrete plan. Is he said this, said the Port Authority said this, and the government said this, the minister said that. Who knows precisely what is happening? One thing we do know is that they want to expropriate this park and erase it. That is what we will not stand for.
Anyway, a little bit more on this from Trillium. So map, these are the plots of land Doug Ford wants for Billy Bishop expansion. Pure power grab, that's what the mayor was saying. So Ontario Premier Doug Ford is ramping up his push to bring jets to Billy Bishop Airport, which includes expropriating multiple pieces of waterfront property owned by the City of Toronto. So not provincial land, not privately owned land that he's taking, but municipally owned land. Which parcels of land will soon be under provincial control? Legislation introduced this week identifies each plot by its property identification number, PIN, which is a publicly accessible record. Thank God for that, because otherwise we would never know this information. Toronto Today, a sister of the Trillium, retrieved further information about all 8 properties, including map, using Ontario's electronic land registry. The pins correspond to all of Little Norway Park, 2 thin stretches of shoreline, and on either side of the airport, ferry terminal, and so on and so forth. Mayor Chow is upset about this, but here, this is the land. It's all of the Toronto Islands gone. All of that. This dick-shaped stretch of land. All of that. So it's not that he's just expropriating the airport or a tiny little park. It's a massive amount of land that belongs to the City of Toronto, belongs to the people of Toronto, belongs to the nature of Toronto, the wildlife that has fewer and fewer places to actually live. Anyway, Kathleen Wynne had things to say about some stuff. It's like, now just imagine if the Premier had allowed basic income pilot to run its course. We could have used the evidence to make real changes to address deep poverty in Ontario. Such bad decisions, such a waste. And so when Doug Ford first got in, one of the first things he did was get rid of the basic income pilot that was already underway. It was only a year into it, and 4,000 people were on it that suddenly were guaranteed 3 years of basic income, were kicked off of the program. And so some of them who were planning to go to school had to quit. Some of them who were trying to open their business now suddenly were going under because they didn't have this income that they were promised for 3 years because Doug Ford shut the program down. Kathleen Wynne is like, oh, that was like, just imagine, like with everyone struggling today, if we had that. Well, just a reminder. Now just imagine if you, Kathleen Wynne, hadn't told everyone to vote for Ford in 2018. You are complicit in the state Ontario is in now. You see, back when the Liberals finally acknowledged, yeah, we're going to lose, they endorsed the Conservatives. So all of this land expropriation, Billy Bishop Airport, all the money being lost, that's in part due to the Liberal government endorsing Doug Ford. Because there's a good chance that had that not happened, had Kathleen Wynne said, do you know what? Everyone who, instead of voting Liberal, go vote NDP, there's a very good chance the NDP would have gotten into power. Nope. The Liberal Party is just as responsible for this fuck up of this province as Doug Ford is. And other people who are like, but we endorsed you. And what? What are you doing? Look, I know we slathered barbecue sauce all over our face, but we still didn't think you'd be eating our face. They said to the leopard eating face party. The Toronto Police, so you know it's bad when the Toronto Police Association is like, excuse me, what are you doing to us? So the Toronto Police Association fundamentally opposes the Solicitor General's plan for the OPP to take over some policing in Toronto. This includes traffic safety on our major arterial routes and mounted and marine functions at Ontario Place along its waterfront. Well, you see, Doug Ford wants to secure the waterfront for his criminal empire, and so he wants to, you know, make sure that the people who are guarding it are in the take. Kind of like the mob, very much like the mob controlling waterfront. We believe this is a gross overreach which will develop a fragmented system, hurting both the city and our members. Our official position and specific requests are outlined in an attached correspondence. So I'm just going to skip through some of this. So not only are we fundamentally opposed to the decision, but we believe it constitutes a gross overreach into what is clearly our members' jurisdiction. We might have police officers that lose out on overtime because of this. As entrenched in our collective agreements, our members are experts in recognizing, managing traffic patterns and all this sort of stuff. Where is it? There is something about them just whining. It's like, after we supported you? So we believe this move will inevitably fragment the delivery of traffic enforcement and general policing service, increasing stress for communities, posing a potential risk to public safety. Page 2. We strongly encourage the Chief of Police and the Chair of Police Service Board to stand up for the members to consider all options. Outsourcing police services in our city is never an option. It demands that those leaders' positions have difficult conversations and do the right thing, including legal action. Well, they don't seem to care when, you know, Doug Ford's taking over all the school boards, but as somebody points out, Sam Hersher is just like, Toronto Police Union endorses Doug Ford. Yeah. You see, you didn't realize when you joined the Leopards Eating Face Party that you weren't a leopard in that. Not even you, Toronto Police, were a leopard in the Leopard Eating Face Party. Nope. Doug Ford's even screwing over the police. But then, again, the similarities between him and Donald Trump are just absolutely ridiculous. The language coming out of this man's mouth. And as David Dole says, like, it's so Trumpian, it's ridiculous.
I also understand the scrutiny. You know, there's no one in this country that is scrutinized more than I am. I'm willing to take that.
Maybe if you stop being a criminal and doing all the fraud and stuff of that sort, you wouldn't be scrutinized as much. And I don't think you're scrutinized the most in the country because there's been no consequences for all the bullshit he's done.
What kind of really disturbs me is the inconsistency with the media. We have the federal government, rightfully so, and let's put the prime minister to the side.
So let's put aside the most scrutinized person, and then it's me.
That they went out and bought $753 million of jets for the ministers, rightfully so, by the way. We live in a massive country.
But they're mad at me for buying a jet I didn't need.
No word. When it comes to the Quebec, buying $107 million of 3 jets, which I agree. They live in a massive province.
Quebec is a different situation because there's lots of remote communities that are fly-in only. Other provinces like BC that also have fly-in communities only will charter planes.
No scrutiny. But when I do it, I guess there's a double standard, and that's my position. I have to take that.
So why was Tina Yazdani fired from CTV News again? It's almost like there's a double standard in the media as to who's allowed to be a journalist. A little bit more from this. T-Dot resident just saying, does anyone think this guy spends over $60 billion more per year than any government in Ontario's history is frugal? Yes, this current Conservative government in Ontario spends more money than every other government that we've had by a long shot. He's increased the pay. He got the biggest cabinet, all the little bells and whistles. Their housing allowance for MPPs is more than what I get in a month to live off of. It's almost double what I get in a month that I am forced to live off of from disability. That's just their housing allowance.
I'm the only, I never brought this up, but since I'm getting hammered about the money, I'm the only premier or MPP for their MPP expenses, which I don't begrudge. Everyone needs to have expenses.
I don't begrudge when other people are wasting money either. I'm just saying.
I have expensed 0. Think of that. 0 for 8 years. I pay for it out of my own pocket, and I don't begrudge any MPPs. I'm just saying, if you're talking, nickels and dimes and dollars and hundreds and thousands of dollars, I pay out of my own pocket. And I've never promoted that. But since it's all about dollars and cents.
Anyway, enough of that bullshit. Close these. Got one more docket to go over, and that's about the FOI. But before we do that, go and check out the SandBox. I need to find a different way of saying it just to annoy Looney Tunes. Like, this has to be the most corrupt government that... And again, it's like, yes, we all know that, Donald Trump's government is corrupt and stuff like that, but they're on a larger scale. Like, I think if it was scaled down to province or something like that, I don't think there's been a more corrupt government than Doug Ford. Oh, scrolled up as high as I can go. Oh, okay, saw those. Let's see. That lefty, wild that they can lie, but not call each other liars. Yes. It's all about the decorum on the House floor. You're not allowed to call another member of parliament or legislative assembly or whatever you want to call it a liar, even if it's accurate to call them a liar. You're not allowed to. It's ridiculous. Oh, hello, Brendan Wood. Welcome to the SandBox. Oh, I actually have a sandwich I can eat after this. It's leftovers. Let's see. Edgebox, that is narcissism, I think. Talking about yourself in the third person. Probably has something to do with narcissism. So I just want to know, like, what is the psychological brain functioning going behind that? People are saying cheesesteak, but I saw cheesecake, and I would really love some cheesecake right now. Let's see. Oh, hello, Synonymous. Welcome to the SandBox. Soul Life, finally, I'm not the only one that said dick tonight. I've said it a few times. Called somebody a dickwad, I think. Brendan Wood, NDP got us all the good things we have because they were that close. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had the authority. Still did a lot. Yeah, like all the healthcare that we love to brag about here in Canada. That was when the NDP was official opposition and was able to push the government into it way back when. So all the things in Canada that we actually really think define us as Canadians, it's because of the NDP. Let's see. Soul Life, he's a victim, actually. Yeah. Synonymous, Ontario has plenty of fly-in only communities. I know, we do here in Ontario. Still doesn't justify needing a private jet because a lot of those runways in these fly-in areas wouldn't be able to accommodate a jet. Because I know there's been issues. It's a lot of reservations that have fly-in areas only, and some of them want to get like extended runways and stuff so that they can have slightly larger planes land that would help on the cost of everything going in and out. But also there's been times where evacuation was necessary because of wildfires, and they were very restricted on flying out, and they needed to call other people for help to fly people out of an evacuation zone. So there are fly-in areas, there are places only with seasonal roads and stuff of that sort. It doesn't justify needing a jet. And I would even argue Quebec doesn't need it because they can charter, like BC does. Synonymous, you pay for it with all of our pockets, with all the money you embezzle from us. Yeah. Or cheesecake, yes, cheesecake would be so good right now. Actually, I do have myself a little treat. Got it from a bakery. It's a peanut butter Nanaimo bar. I'm not necessarily a fan of Nanaimo bars because I don't like the cake part of it, but I am a sucker for peanut butter. I love peanut butter. And the person at the bakery let me try a bit. I'm like, okay, I'm buying the bar. Okay. Well, why don't we just scooch on along so that we can get wrapped up earlier. And I'll show everyone some of the paintings that I was working on earlier. I showed them at the beginning of the stream, but I probably have more viewers now than then. And it's a nice little way to unwind, is for me to be full of myself and show off the really fantastic artwork I've been doing. There are a few things I am cocky and confident about. Art is one of them. I know I'm a fucking good artist. But praise me for something I already know I'm good at. Please praise me for something that I know I don't need any praise for. Anyway, so let's get back into it. And this is mostly about the FOI. So that is the Doug Ford fucked Ontario indefinitely. I came up with that. It's a snazzy title. Doug Ford fucked Ontario indefinitely. Let's see. So it starts sort of federally because while everyone is focused provincially on, freedom of information being taken away, Mark Carney and Doug Ford are really close. They're buddy-buddy. And so it doesn't surprise me in the least. They're trying to do this shit federally. No. Doug Ford and Mark Carney are one and the same. So government emails, text messages could be shielded by federal transparency law changes. Fearing a Carney government proposal will erode the public's right to know, opponents have asked a preliminary committee to urgently consider access to information law. So summary of the Norwell article is the federal government is proposing changes to Canada's access to information regime that could shield some emails and text messages from information requests. These sorts of requests have formed the basis of reporting from the Norwell and other media outlets and have been used by lawyers, academics, and members of the public. The Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat is seeking public feedback on the proposal until June 15th. So a secretive bid for Canada's spy agency shared intel with corporations, a behind-the-scenes lobbying effort to weaken climate rules and fast-track major oil and gas project, a federal government tug-of-war over a new highway in Ontario. These and many stories by the Norwell were built off of government documents retrieved through Canada's transparency law. For more than 40 years, the Access of Information Act has given journalists, lawyers, academics, activists, business, and political parties a peek behind the curtain at what the government is doing with tax dollars. In theory, and sometimes in practice, the law allows for an up-close look at a wide range of government records in a timely manner, usually for just $5, and subject to safeguards like removing personal information, certain legal details, and classified materials. But other times, requests can take years to process. The regime has long been accused of being too slow and cumbersome. In early March, the government of the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, proposed altering the tools the law gives the public to hold Ottawa to account. The government says the proposals, which are not yet enacted or spelled out in legislation, are meant to improve the access of the regime's transparency and performance. But they're raising concerns among Canada's Information Commissioner, as well as a group of public interest advocates who say the changes would actually erode the right of Canadians to know how and why decisions are being made in their name. It's just an excuse to get rid of where the real records are, investigative research and public access advocate Ken Rubin said in an interview. The March 5th proposal were made by the Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat and the federal department that oversees government management as part of a regular review of the legislation. The department is responsible for administering the Access to Information Act, as well as for developing information management policies for the public service. It's asking for public feedback until June 15th. Let's see if I do this. I might try to public feedback on this. So some email text messages could be shielded under Canada's proposed access to information laws. I'm not going to read over this whole thing because, it's getting that time of night. My voice is starting to give out, and this is a lot to read, but I will be putting the link into the SandBox. see. Being able to examine federal public servants' communications, whether or not they are deemed to have documented government decision-making, is key to understanding how Ottawa actually functions, Rubin said. These records can provide a window into the unvarnished real-time thoughts of officials, he argued, unlike other types of government documents that get sent through rounds of draft approvals and wind up feeling sanitized. Canada's Access to Information Commissioner troubled by proposal. In a March statement, Maynard said she was troubled by the government's proposal that would weaken the right of access, including limiting access to official records. She told the committee she agreed there were examples, like in the email, that just says thank you of a transitory message that we shouldn't keep. But she added that it was meant to be important for federal department and agencies to have strong retention policies and train staff while they work. The government is proposing regressive changes, the group wrote, adding, "We fear the end result will not be helpful and your review cannot wait." So, Narwhal is a good magazine. Like, do they call them magazines anymore? Like, news place to go to. So support the Narwhal if you can. But on to Ontario's getting rid of the freedom of information. So Ontario redacts almost every word top civil servant wrote about return to office mandate. And so this is an example of some stuff we're going to hear from Colin DeMello.
Well, critics of the Ford government stress that access to information in this province is about to get significantly worse, but we have documents to show just how bad it already is. When the Ford government introduced its controversial changes to Ontario's Freedom of Information laws, it promised the vast majority of documents would still be available, including government decisions and anything handled by the civil service.
Over 95% of information available to the public, including government outcomes and decisions, are still available to the public.
But when Global News recently asked Ontario's top civil servant, Secretary of Cabinet Michelle D'Emmanuel, for her official notes on the government's return to office mandate, this is what we received. 15 pages of redacted notes. Only a handful of words.
Just looks like a whole bunch of Post-it notes.
Words made it through, including references to the Premier's former Chief of Staff, the return to office initials, weekly meetings, and dates with no context.
Redaction Central. Yeah. Is there any words in there? Like, what is this? This is a joke.
Critics say it's a sign of what's to come.
We're not going to get information. We're not going to find out about the Greenbelt. We're not going to find out about skills development. We're not going to find out about the private jet. Right? We're not going to find out about anything. That's what they're doing.
The changes to the law could become official this week. The FOI changes are tucked into this year's budget, and the government is fast-tracking that document through the legislature with no public input on freedom of information. We asked the finance minister whether this is acceptable. Take a look at this. You see that?
That's not my
You see that?
area.
That's a lot of redacted material. How's that acceptable?
Colin, I think that the public.
Last time a reporter challenged someone like him, she got fired. I'm hoping Colin DeMello keeps his job.
Service, who are doing an outstanding job. They're following the rules. We're lining up with other jurisdictions. Our Westminster model is based on this.
Is this what we're expecting more of? Everything to be redacted from your government?
Documents you're flashing in front of me. I'm not going to speak to those.
Once this legislation becomes law in the coming days, the entire government, from cabinet ministers to Premier Doug Ford and staff, will all be exempt from freedom of information laws. By the way, the court orders compelling Doug Ford to release his private cell phone records, those too will be quashed.
So it's not enough that they're just getting rid of the freedom of information ability, but it's going to be okay. I'm doing this in order of progression. The fear was that this law would also be retroactive, and it is, and oh my God, it's bad. It is really bad. So Marit Stiles was tuning into it. So breaking the Ford government just scheduled a late night sitting until midnight to ram through FOI changes. Just when you thought this government couldn't get any worse, they're now scheduling late night sittings to quietly change the rules, hoping to keep Ontarians in the dark. And so she's the leader of the Ontario NDP. And this is a common tactic from the Liberals and the Conservatives, that when they have late night sittings and they want to ram through things without public input and stuff like that, it's because they know it's bad. They know it's wrong. And they're just hoping to get it through before the outrage. The public becomes aware of it and becomes outraged. So Marat Stiles said, tonight more than 10,000 emails were sent through release Doug's text.ca asking every MPP to do the right thing and stop the FOI changes. Debate has now ended. The final vote is expected tomorrow after question period. The official opposition will keep fighting every step of the way. Blah, blah, blah. So, Colin DeMello also reporting the Ford government has called a late night sitting to pass the budget during legislative off hours. If it gets third reading tonight, it could be law as early as tomorrow, rendering the court decision for the premier to hand over his cell phone records moot. They won the court case. Global News won. So as Joe is pointing out, regardless of what he pulls tonight, on January 5th, 2026, he was ordered to hand over his phone logs. He has been contempt every day since. Seize his phone records now. So Doug Ford desperately does not want his phone records out. He's been using his personal cell phone to conduct government business. And there are secrets on there that are bad. He must be guilty of some of the worst things, that he is so desperate to hide these records. And he was ordered by the court to turn them over, and he did not. That alone should be enough to get him out of power, to force him out of his seat. Instead, since he can't use the notwithstanding clause in this particular case, he is literally making a law that allows him to break the law. I am so fucking mad at this. Because Ford government passes budget that lets premier and ministers keep office records secret. That didn't take long.
We have breaking news. The Ford government's budget bill has now passed. MPPs stayed late last night to discuss this bill in preparation for the vote today. Today is the last day before the legislature breaks for a week. The budget has faced criticism from the opposition, as we noted earlier, for changes to freedom of information legislation, but it has now passed.
And here's them cheering on the vote. So this is from Richard Southern of City News. The Ford government passes the budget bill, having sped it through the legislature, including in it is a provision that does away with most key FOI requests. The premier and his cabinet ministers are now shielded from freedom of information requests. It's not just Doug Ford, but it's all of his cabinet ministers now do not have to comply with freedom of information requests. All of these are gross pigs. Like they are the worst politicians we could possibly have. Like I said, I'm so fucking mad at this one. We're supposed to be able to hold our government accountable, and instead he just goes and make fucking laws like this. Like again, I'm mad. Creptario said, here's the list of all members who voted yes to end FOIs and keep Doug's phones a secret. If one of these belong to you, you'd like to call them up or pay them a visit. The hyperlinks on this page take you straight to their contact. So if one of these is your MPP here in Ontario, again, I never suggest doing anything violent, but go to their office. Protest at their office. Tell them what a piece of shit they are. And I will put this link in the SandBox for people so that you can find your legislative member easier. Here, breaking. Doug Ford was in such a rush to hide his phone records that his Freedom of Information law changes quietly received royal assent this morning. On Friday, with the legislator not even sitting. So, not only was the bill voted on, it's already received royal assent. It's already been made law, because that was in their stopgap that people were hoping for, is that, well, maybe we can make it so that it doesn't receive royal assent and therefore it isn't law. No, it right away, right off the bat, it quietly received royal assent. So I've sent urgent letters to the Secretary of Cabinet, the RCMP, Ontario's Information and Privacy Commissioner. Each is being asked to act immediately to safeguard evidence related to the Greenbelt scandal before this government can destroy it. So now that's the fear, that a lot of the evidence into a lot of the corruption and scandals and fraud that he's been doing will simply be destroyed. Aw, honey, you're never going to be premier. You should have stepped down. So here's someone saying, it's rare, but Ontario's lieutenant governor should have refused to grant royal assent. And yes, they should have, because this is blatantly wrong. Please contact the federal governor general in council to request an order in council for disallowance of Bill 97 to quash it as a grave attack on democracy and public's right to know. So this is from, okay, I thought it might be a link to how to do it, but disallowance in reservation in Canada. This is a Wikipedia page. So these are constitutional powers in Canada that act as a mechanism to delay or overrule legislation passed by Parliament or provincial legislator. In contemporary Canadian history, disallowance is an authority granted to King and Council to invalidate an act passed by a provincial legislator. Reservation is an authority granted to a governor general, lieutenant governor, and blah, blah, blah. So T.Dot resident is also all over this. So Doug Ford is hiding government emails, texts, and other records retroactive to January 1st, 1988. That's how retroactive this is. Going back almost 40 years. Everything can now be hidden. Evidence can be destroyed. Almost 40 years retroactive. So highlighting these amendments are deemed to have come into force January 1st, 1988. And that's Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. So when this act was first enacted, it's erasing the entire thing. The entire thing. So pointing out, Ford government votes to hide all emails and communications back to 1988, including the gas plant scandal, the e-health scandal, Highway 407 sale, green energy deals, Greenbelt deals, skilled development funding, Therma Spa, Science Center closure. All of these that are blatantly corrupt, he can now hide. So yes, mystery solved. It's the 1988 is the year the Freedom of Information and Protection and Privacy Act came into force in Ontario. And that's why it went back to 1988. The Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act is an act of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. The act legislates access to information held by public institutions in Ontario, subject to specific requirements to safeguard personal information. The resulting act came into effect January 1st, 1988. And Corrupt Ontario is pointing out that this isn't a new tactic. So quote tweeting this person saying, Ford was told he couldn't conduct government business on his personal phone. He did anyways. A court ordered he release his cell phone records. He refused. Today, the Ontario government will vote to allow Ford to delete those records retroactively. This is authoritarianism. And Corrupt Ontario is pointing out that it's not new. A court said Ford couldn't pass voter suppression and political fundraising legislation, so he used the notwithstanding clause to force it through. Ford has since won 2 more majorities thanks to legislation and low turnout. Bet you had no idea. And it goes back further than that. When COVID first hit the province and was wiping out people in long-term care homes, they had to send the military in to get things under control in the private, for-profit long-term care homes. On arrival, they found 23 people had died of dehydration. And do you know what happened? Instead of any accountability, Doug Ford passed a law that prevented the families of these people from suing the long-term care CEOs and all of that sort of stuff for the loss of life. That's what Doug Ford did. That eventually got overturned in higher court. But this is so fucking outrageous that he can just make laws that allow him to break whatever fucking law he wants to get away with. He is not the premier of this province. He is the mob boss. He's doing whatever the fuck he wants, and he's getting away with it because we have such feckless politicians in office that aren't doing dick all to stop it. There should be checks and balances in place to prevent him from doing this. This will have repercussions on this province for generations. All the bullshit that he's been doing, everything. This system is starved. He is bleeding Ontario dry. He is completely robbing this province on a scale like I haven't seen before. All of this money is disappearing and going to his corporate buddies. This is like so fucking outrageous, and not enough people are mad. Like, it is unacceptable it has been allowed to get this far. And there is no way any premier should be able to do this. The federal government shouldn't have been able to do it with Bill C-5, and the provincial office shouldn't be able to do it with Bill 5, where they can literally just write a law that allows them to override other laws. There has to be something in place. Otherwise, there is no such thing as democracy. There is no such things as checks and balances in our government. If all they have to do is, once they're a majority, pass a law that allows them to override every other law that was made up to that point. This is so fucking ridiculous. I can't believe that there wasn't enough people out there outraged about this to stop it. Doug Ford should be handing over those phone records. A court ordered, compelled him to, and he still did not. He is a criminal. He is blatantly breaking the law here, and nothing is being done. I'm so fed up with this government. I'm so fed up with all those people who decided to sit home because they didn't like the other options. Well, fuck all of you. Okay, all those people who sat home helped make this mess. I do voter blame. I also blame the media, and I blame the other politicians. All of them are accountable in this. The other party leaders should have been a better option, and they were so pathetic that nobody else wanted to vote for them. They didn't drive people to the polls, and that's on them. But all those people who sat home, it's also on them. All the media that didn't report on things properly, it's on them. All of it. There are people who will be dead come the next election that would have been alive had any other party been in power. There has to be accountability in this. Otherwise, there is 0 point to our government. So fucking mad at this. Checking the SandBox. I'm done. I'm done for the night. Close these tabs. So Lifey tried to sell off parts of the Green Belt to land developers, but there was enough pushback about that he had to stop. But of course now he can. And all the records as to who he was going to sell it to and all that, it can just be deleted. Can just be deleted. No accountability. Absolutely no accountability. It's so infuriating. What are people saying? I don't know what the context of a lot of these comments are. Let's see. Bad Lefty in that museum park place. Yeah, the Science Center in Ontario Place. What he did to those, it's just criminal. It's criminal. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, I saw some of those comments, so I backed up a little bit too much. It's anonymous saying he's one of the mistakenly released criminals they missed, and he's in Queen Park. Yeah. Okay, I saw those. Okay. People talking about bikes. Bad Lefty ramming it through at midnight. Yep, that's what they do when they know they're doing something wrong. Let's see. Isadora saying passive population. Yeah. Yeah, there's all this stuff Brenda would about the 407 and everything. Looney Tunes. Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Yeah. And welcome to the SandBox. Now that I'm almost wrapping up this live stream. It's a short live stream. I might get done in 4 hours. Oh well, I said that I would show them again. So I've been working on some paintings because I'm hoping to get a vending table at the Pride Festival. So I've been working on some paintings, and I showed off a couple of them earlier that I had already finished. So I had showed off the pansexual on the trans flag. And then I touched up this one. That's the bisexual trans flag. Here is the lesbian one. So you can be a trans woman with a lesbian heart or a trans man with a gay heart. And so the next flags that I'm going to be doing are the lesbian and gay flags with the symbols for them on it. But one that I'm going to be working on a lot, and hopefully these will sell, are the Canada Pride flags, which look like this. All hand painted. So this is the plain one. And then I have metallic. So I did a coat of metallic paint over top of it. I still need to put a gloss layer over it to make it a little bit more shiny. And the one that I would buy if I was buying is the super glittery one. So I need to put a layer of gloss over this one too to seal in all the sparkles so they don't shed over everything, but yeah. And I'm thinking of selling these for $30. Let me know if you think that so these ones, the Canada Pride Flakes would be $30, but ones like these would be $25. Let me know if you think that if those are all right prices. I'm not going to be making up for the time and energy and stuff that I spent on it, but it would at least cover the costs of, you know, the supplies and all that sort of stuff. But the time and energy that goes into it, I'm not making enough back for that. But yeah, I do like the glitter one. But let me know if you think $30 for a hand-painted glittery pie flag would be seems reasonable. Actually, let's I have a lot more painting that I need to get done. Work on the TYT essay. Been getting a lot of work on that done. I need it done. I need it done. Okay. Are you going to come up? Are you just going to tease everyone, or are you going to come up? There we go. Kitty! There we go. He is the least squirmy when I have him like this. Get your claws out of that. Making big muffins with those paws, huh? Okay, you gotta go down now. Okay, here we go. Ooh. But yeah, I have a lot of work to get done, so don't want to stay too late. I'm going to get done in under 4 hours. That's a short live stream. Let's see. There we go. So, also a reminder that when those TYT essays come out, there will be a new version of this book. Again, nothing's changing in the plot, just some language. So if you pick it up now, you'll have like a collector's edition. Just saying, just saying. But please help support my channel. Ways that you can support it that don't cost anything is promote me to other leftist content creators. I would love to do collabs. I'm still hoping to get onto a channel that is bigger than mine. That has not happened yet. And I'm very curious to see who will be the first larger channel to take me on. But just promote me in their chats and things of that sort to help get them aware of me. Because collaborations with larger leftist channels would definitely help mine get noticed. Just, you know, make sure that you put comments under the videos, like, share, all of that sort of stuff. Actually, I'm going to see if there's anyone else live right now that I'm familiar with. No, there's nobody live right now that I'm familiar with that I can send you off to. Just gonna make double sure. But yeah, like, subscribe, share, leave comments. All of that really helps. You know, get my channel on the algorithms, and it doesn't cost anything. But if you do have a little extra and it's not going to hurt you in any way whatsoever, become a patron or a member of this channel. I like to have a little bit of both, because then that way, if YouTube decides to demonetize my channel, I still have Patreon to go back on, and vice versa. Also, I have the Amazon wish list in the description box below for, you know, if you just have a little bit and you have a one-time thing. That's super appreciated. You know, things that will help build my studio, both my YouTube and my art, you know, treats for cats, treats for me, all of that sort of stuff. Buying my book, that helps. That helps. Sorry, I'm just looking to see if there is any other channels that might be live right now that I can redirect to. Let's see. No, I think that's it. But yeah, I appreciate you all. I appreciate everyone who has helped out with my channel. I wouldn't be here without all of you. So, you know, this leftist community, despite what the online discourse says, it's really supportive of each other, and we're all in this together. Yeah, don't forget my other YouTube channel. I'll be posting on it far more once, again, I'm done that TYT essay. Please subscribe to my art channel for things that aren't so political, but will still sometimes be political, because that's, it's in everything. So thank you to the mods, and yeah, I think with all of that, salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.